It's 3:05 a.m. I'm pretty sure you could hear my air conditioning in the background, but whatever. Got home from watching Snow White at like 1 a.m. Have you ever watched a movie and it feels like the movie's calling you stupid? And I can't believe this movie is so bad that it's costing me my fucking sleep, and I love sleep.
Full transparency, I had a script for this video. 10 pages of really well-written, well-crafted writing, but I wasn't able to finish it before going to see Snow White in theaters. Because I went Thursday at 11 p.m. and my plan was to have this script 90% of the way done and then go see the movie, come back, tack on my final thoughts, film it Friday, edit it Saturday, Sunday, have it up by Monday, and be done. And then I saw the movie. But I've never had a movie spit in my face and then go, you know, it's polite to say thank you. See, I had a doctor's appointment on Friday and I got stuck in traffic and all I could think about was this movie. And I couldn't put into words why it bothered me so much, but it haunted me. And I've never had a movie haunt me before. And I went to go see the new Star Wars at the midnight release. And normally I'm a huge proponent of everything has good and bad, and even awful stories, we can learn something. Or we can appreciate what they were trying to do. Like the idea, even if it wasn't well executed, there's something there, no matter how awful the movie is. And I couldn't do that with this one. I don't think I've ever had a movie make me feel so dejected about media literacy, ever. And then, because I'm working on this video, and I rented the movie, I got a YouTube short about Snow White and the Huntsman. And the top comment with 300 likes said,
"This is how you make a real Snow White. A strong woman who's still gracious and kind. Disney should take notes."
And in the grand scheme of things, 300 is not a lot of people, but it's too fucking many for me to keep this video in its original structure. So we're going back to the beginning, baby. Because you want to know what makes a good Snow White, a real Snow White? Strap in, because I'm going to tell you. And by the end of this video, we are going to be in agreement, and we're going to know what makes a good Snow White. Because I read and watched almost all of them. Except for Mirror Mirror. I ran out of time and I wasn't going to pay for it. I'll explain why when we get there. I have pages and pages of notes about this goddamn story and what makes this character work and why and what is the point of Snow White. And we are going to go through it piece by piece together, and we're going to write together what should have been a modern Disney Snow White retelling. In my opinion, and hopefully yours. Because goddamn. It's 80 degrees here for the first time, and also like 50-degree humidity, and I don't have AC. This is the worst day to be filming a video that's gonna piss me off, but whatever. Hi friends and welcome travelers, I'm Persie, your local tour guide. I'm a romance author with a background in performing arts, pro lover girl, certified hater, self-declaimed and self-deprecating Disney adult. How's it going? Quick background. I had this idea for this video almost 2 years ago at this point. First, when I saw the behind-the-scenes images of Rachel Ziegler in that Party City-ass looking dress, and then again when I saw her D23 interview, and then again when I finally saw the trailer for the film. I just couldn't get the question out of my head. What makes a good Snow White? Because I knew that the Disney live-action remake was going to be awful. But why did I know that? Because if I'm going to dislike something, I should at least be able to concisely say why. So, I went back to as many versions of Snow White that time and money would allow me to try to figure out what makes. And if you haven't been keeping up with the drama that was the live-action remake of Snow White, I hope you're ready for some hot goss and a lot of opinions. Because it's been a whirlwind. And for what? Nothing. A mediocre movie at the end of the day. That being said, if you have a problem with a Latina playing Snow White or a black girl playing Ariel on principle, get out. No, I'm serious. I don't want you here. None of us want you here. And we're all patiently waiting for you to leave. Your comments are not wanted, cared about, or welcome here, and they will be deleted. Thank you. Now, if you have a problem with Rachel Ziegler specifically playing Snow White. Now we can talk, okay? Okay. Look, it has her on it. Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? I needed a new cup. And I thought it was cute, so I got it. But now I don't like it. But I'm gonna keep using it. So subscribe, because once I hit 1,000 followers, I can get monetized. And then maybe I can make back the money I spent on this cup. And of course, because I am a disabled individual, I only have so many pain-reduced hours in the day where I can sit up and talk. So we're gonna craft. So I hope you got a craft ready to do with me. Today we are painting pots. If you don't know, I'm a hobbyist potter, and I like to throw on the wheel. And I got this pot. It's gonna be a mug. It's gonna be an orange. And I got this pot. It's a heart. Yay, I have to paint them because my studio is closing for the semester and I have to get them on the rack. And honestly, I was considering doing this as an apple because it has the leaf. It has the leaf thumb thing, the thumb rest. I thought that'd be very fun and thematic for the video, but I'm fucking tired of Snow White, so we're making an orange. It'd be cute as an apple. We'll see. We're gonna do the heart one first. Okay. But yeah, doing things with my hands helps me work through the pain and to try to keep the pain at bay as much as possible. That's why I'm always doing something, so I hope you have something to do with me. And this one's going to be easy. This is going to be red on the inside, pink on the outside with little hearts. And I know not everyone likes the unglazed pottery sound. I'm going to try to keep that to a minimum. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. So, Little Snow White by the Brothers Grimm. Hold on. The original Snow White fairy tale, where it all began. Personally, I've known of this story most of my life, but I've never read it. I don't know why. It's just one of those things, you know what I mean? Like, I've never read the original Little Mermaid either. But you know about it, like, you know how the story goes, right? And I don't know what I expected. I guess I expected it to feel much more dated than it was, but honestly, it kind of just read like a regular old children's story. The only weird thing was honestly the prince, but he's weird in any rendition of the story. But we will get there. We're gonna paint the inside first. I should have seen that coming. Oh god. Also, important note, I will be using the word dwarves when it comes to the story of Snow White. But I believe the correct term is little person. I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong. And I will be using the term little person when referring to real people. But in the case of Snow White, since it is technically fantasy, I am unsure if dwarf is being used as like a fantasy race. So we're going to use dwarves for Snow White, and then when it comes to real people, we're going to respect them and say little people. Sick. I just want to make that clear, so it's worth mentioning. I'm going to, so if you haven't read the original Snow White, I'm going to be including a lot of detail in this, just because it is the original. This is our baseline. And I'll try to make it short, but that's not my strong suit, so we start the story with an unnamed queen. She's sitting in the window looking out, and she is suddenly taken by this beautiful black wood of the window frame. And she thinks to herself, "Would that I had a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the wood of the window frame." And I had to double check that quote multiple times when writing it down, because I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, it means a child with fair skin, red lips, and black hair, right? But the way it's phrased just really caught me off guard, and at first I imagined a little alien baby. But this description is not shocking to me in the slightest. The story was originally written in 1812, and fair skin was the beauty standard, because it meant that you didn't have to work outside, so you weren't poor. And that was the standard for a very long time. The paler you were, the richer you were, so the prettier you were, was the idea. And I'm sure there might be more nuance there, but I'm not a historian and Google's not what it used to be. But at its core, that's why its skin is white as snow. And then both red lips and cheeks and dark hair are both signs of vitality, of health, of youthfulness. So someone wishing for a beautiful, healthy baby girl, that's not out of the normal. That's nothing new. And I bring this up because white skin is not vital to the character. What it is vital to is a glimpse into what the story is about. The heart of the work, if you will, which is beauty and youthfulness. But back to our queen, her wish is granted, and she has a beautiful baby girl that she's able to name Snow White before she dies. She dies during childbirth. Unnamed king eventually remarries to a new queen who is obsessed with her appearance. She asks her magic looking glass, "Who is the fairest of them all?" And they say, "Thou, O queen, art the fairest of all." To which I imagine she flips her hair and goes, "Oh, why, of course," and then walks away. because she's full of herself. Oh my god, I love her. But then the king dies, and because she's wicked and insecure, she makes Snow White dress and act as a scullery maid. Just to make herself feel better, honestly. And then one day, the queen goes to ask her looking glass her favorite question, and it says, "Oh, just kidding, it's your snot-nosed 7-year-old stepdaughter." And because the queen has the self-esteem the size of a pea, she immediately wants her dead. So she sends her favorite huntsman, a full-grown man whose profession is hunting and killing animals, to go hunt down and carve out the heart of this 7-year-old. To which, of course, he can't, because that's insane. Not only because she's 7, but also because she's, like, a very darling 7-year-old. Like, personally, I imagine she got big eyes, she has curly, dark hair, and big old cheeks, just a cherub of a baby girl. Like, itty-bitty. That's what I imagine. But he can't bring himself to do it, so he brings back instead the heart of a boar. To which the wicked queen eats the heart of the boar, and it's unclear if it's raw. In my heart, it's raw, because I think that's just a lot cooler, but it's not stated in the text, so we don't know. Just, I think that's so funny. Anyway, Snow White takes off running, and she's running all day. She has to run over 7 hills deep into the forest until she comes across a beautiful cottage in the woods. Everything is clean and precise, and there's a table set with 7 dinners waiting and ready for its occupants to come home. And because she's been running all day, she's starving and exhausted, but still has the peace of mind to not be a menace to society. And so she takes a little bite from each plate and just a drop of wine from each mug, as to not overwhelmingly take everything from one person. And then once she's eaten, she Goldilocks her way through the beds until she finds one that she fits, and then she prays to God and goes to sleep. And so the dwarves come home, they find her in bed, and they want to be mad at her, but they can't because she's a precious 7-year-old, and she's probably disheveled and dirty. Not only that, but they let her sleep through the night, and whoever bed that she was in, that dwarf, he spends 1 hour in each bed so that no one goes undisturbed all night. And is that an effective way to share a bed? No. But it's a sweet gesture nonetheless. And the next day, everyone wakes up and the dwarves tell Snow White if she wants to stay with them, she can. If she takes care of the house while the dwarves are at work, she will want for nothing. Air quotes around that. Basically saying equal and opposite exchange. And again, I want to point out that she is 7, and the cottage was clean when she got there. It is spick and span. So, in reality, it's chores for a 7-year-old. Not that big a deal. Because they don't mention her, like, cooking and cleaning for them. It's just kind of keep it tidy while we're gone. Okay, thanks. And so she tells them that she's the princess and that the wicked queen wants her dead. And so the dwarves tell her, sorry, that's really hard to say, and I'm trying to be really good about my diction because someone pointed it out in my last video, and I'm aware of it. I know my diction's awful, so I'm trying. But the dwarves tell her, while we are not home, do not open the door to anyone. The queen can disguise herself, and she will kill you. Stay safe. And they go to work. Now, back at the palace, our wicked queen, once again full of herself, fluffing her hair, she asks her looking glass her favorite question: who is the fairest of them all? O queen, thou art fairest of all I see, but over the hills where the 7 dwarves dwell, Snow White is still alive and well, and none is so fair as she. Like, bitch, you could have kept that to yourself. You did not need to tell anyone that information. But whatever. I need to be very careful about not getting paint on my hands to touch the outside of this. But the wicked queen disguises herself as a peddler woman selling laces. And she makes her way over to the dwarf's cottage, and she offers Snow White help with her laces, her dress, like to lace up the back of her dress. She believes that the old woman is only trying to help. Very much, oh, honey, come here, let me just straighten you up real fast type energy. And since Snow White is 7 and doesn't know the loving touch of a mother, she believes her. So she lets the old woman relace her dress, and the wicked queen starts pulling and pulling and pulling on the laces until she's so tight-laced that Snow White cannot breathe and she passes out. Violent. And then I imagine the wicked queen runs away doing this. Luckily, the dwarves come home from work and they're able to cut her laces and to set her free, and she's fine. The next day, the evil queen disguises herself just as an old woman, and she covers a comb in poison. And this time, Snow White doesn't let her in. Which, like, she didn't let the queen in the first time. She kind of was in the doorway and turned around for her to do the lacing. This time, she barely cracks open the door, right? And she doesn't let her in. And the queen was like, that's fine. Here, a beautiful comb for a beautiful girl. And she just puts it in her hair. And have you ever had an old woman, like, adjust your hair? Like, very much, oh, honey, you have a leaf in your hair. Let me take it out. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. Like, every time it happens, I feel like I can punch a wall and win. Like, I feel so invigorated. It's just so sweet. But again, Snow White falls to the floor. And luckily, the dwarves are able to come home and they're able to save her. They take a napkin, they take out the comb, they throw it away. And again, they're like, do not trust strangers. Don't trust them. And again, because she's 7, the next day, the Wicked Queen, once again, disguises herself, this time as an old country woman, and she poisons a beautiful red apple. Outside, it looked pretty, white with a red cheek, so that everyone who saw it longed for it, but whoever ate a piece of it must surely die. What does white with a red cheek mean? I don't know. I'm even more unsure once we get to the part where the queen gives it to Snow White, because she offers it to her. Again, Snow White did not open the door. She offers her the apple through the window. And Snow was like, no, I can't. It's unsafe. And the queen goes, oh, I'm just a country woman who has an overabundant harvest. At least share this apple with me. And she cuts 2 pieces off of the apple. One red, one white. She eats the white one and she gives Snow White the red. So I don't know what that means. I'm imagining a variegated apple, if I'm honest. Again, Snow White drops dead, evil queen, cackling, running away. Dwarves, they show up, they come home, and they see Snow White on the floor, but they cannot wake her. They unlace her, they brush out her hair, they wash her with water and with wine, but nothing is reviving her. So they put her on a bier, B-I-E-R, it's a wagon for a corpse, and they cry and mourn her for 3 days. Another religious number for those who are counting. So far we have 777 and 3. Anyway, they don't bury her because she still has so much life in her face, like her cheeks are still flushed. She just looks like she's sleeping. So instead, they put her in a glass coffin so that all could mourn her, and they make a gold plaque with her name and that she was the king's daughter, so that everyone who comes to see her knows who she is. And at all times, there's always a single dwarf with her standing vigil. And all the birds weep for Snow. First an owl, then a raven, and at last a dove. Now, enter stage left. No name King Sign. Round of applause. Round of applause. He has to stay with the dwarves for a few nights on his travels, and he becomes enamored with Snow White. But the dwarves refuse to part with her for all the gold in the world. But then the prince says, can I have it as a gift? I can't live without looking at her. I will honor and prize her as my dearest possession. To which the dwarves say, well, when you put it that way. To which I say, guys, what the fuck? What happened to not all the gold in the world? What happened? Like, at least get gold out of it. At least. But he does. He takes her on her little bier and off they go. On to the travels. And on their travels, they hit a bump in the road. And I shit you not. The piece of apple goes flying out of her mouth. And she wakes up. To which the prince says, I love you more than anything in the world. Come with me to my father's palace and you shall be my wife. To which I say, she said then! Stop it! God! Ugh. But no, they get married. But once they get married, Snow is the new queen. And the Wicked Queen, by law, she has to go and pay respects to the new queen. And when she arrives, the king brings out red hot iron shoes, forces them onto the Wicked Queen, and makes her dance until she dies. Which I fear. I don't have a choice in the matter. Personally. And if we read between the lines, we can assume that Snow White confided into her husband about her upbringing and everything the evil queen did to her and how she wanted her killed and wanted to eat her heart. And in my heart of hearts, the prince is like at most 10, you know? Do you want something fucked? I've been suffering all day. Turns out my AC's not broken. I've just been sweating my balls off for no reason. It's fine, I guess. Anyway, my camera overheated. I had to take a break. Where were we? I don't remember. So, yeah, we're back to standing the prince, weirdly. So, we stand him because he set her on fire. So if we read between the lines of that story, we can assume that Snow White confided in her husband of all the evil things that the Wicked Queen did and about her childhood and everything. And in my heart, personally, the king is like 10. He's not an old man. He's like 10. They get married a few years down the line, and then all the dwarves are in attendance. That's what I believe in my heart of hearts, okay? But again, this came out in 1812. Is it believable that she was married away at 7? Yes. Wow. Gross. But also not important to the story at all. Like, it's very Deus Ex Machina, very, and it's done, we fixed it. Like, I don't know. It felt like, okay, well, we did what we wanted to say. We need to wrap up this story. What do girls like? A prince? Sure, we'll just tack that on at the end. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like. And then it's fine if we have violence, because a man did it. Snow White's hands are clean. She didn't do anything. You know, like, that's my major sticking point with the original story. But other than that, I was surprised at how much this read kind of like a regular children's story. For the most part, because, like, yes, the queen died a fairly violent death, but also I think kids need to know that dragons can be slain, so, you know? To me, the only real sticking point is random nameless prince from stage left coming in and marrying her because she's a beautiful object. That's problematic. That's gross. And even in historical context, that's gross, you know? It doesn't feel malintended. It just feels like a grown man doesn't know what little girls want. And understanding the intention is important. It doesn't excuse or make anything moral. It just informs us, and it lends into our understanding of the work and our critical thinking skills, right? And our media literacy. But anyway, I expected it to be much more violent and much more, okay, well, I need to look this up to make sure that this isn't, you know, like, it might need more historical context given it's such an old story, but not really. Like, for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, and honestly, I was pleasantly surprised at this theme of community that kept happening. The fact that Snow went out of her way to only take a little from everyone so that not one person got everything taken from them. The dwarf who spent time sharing beds with everyone so that no one person had an awful night, you know, wasn't too uncomfortable. The fact that the dwarves offer her a chance to stay with them if she just helped pull her weight a bit. And then when she does get poisoned, they take care of her with no question. This idea that we work together, we carry the weight of responsibility together, and we work together to keep each other safe. It's a very sweet idea and very appropriate for children, I think, in my opinion. And I know that Snow White, the idea of Snow White, has a lot of emphasis on beauty, that she's the fairest of them all. But once you read the story, you realize that the fairest is more than skin deep, and that's why the queen can't be the fairest. No matter what she does, she will never be the fairest of them all. And then the thing that the queen is obsessed with youth. And it's a bad thing that she's obsessed with youth. And that's nothing new. I mean, we can go online now and be bombarded with anti-aging propaganda because aging is bad. It's a plague that should be avoided at all costs. Which is not true. And I'm going to be so vulnerable with you. I had to have a huge talk with my therapist about age, the concept of age, because I had to grapple with becoming disabled at the age of 27. And oh my god, I've done it wrong. Now that I can't live my life the way that I was before, well, I fucked up. I did it wrong. I aged wrong. I'm not where I should have been. I haven't done anything I need to do by this age. And now I can't. And that's not true at all. Being 27 and talking to someone older than you, going like, oh my god, I'm old and dying, is an insane conversation. I recommend it to anyone my age. I'll be completely honest with you. And if anyone online is trying to make you feel bad, they're probably trying to tell you something. Like the queen. And what I found interesting is that it's obvious that the queen is in the wrong for being obsessed with these things. And that being young and beautiful doesn't make you the fairest of them all. Like, the idea that being gracious and kind is what makes you beautiful, what makes you fair. Being a good person gets you the happily ever after. Like, that's the point of the story. So let's add all of that to our list of what makes a good Snow White. We got sense of community, graciousness, evil obsessed with youth, weird nameless prince. I don't think that's important to making a good Snow White, but I'm going to include him simply because he keeps fucking showing up. But he's going on his own little list labeled why. Because honestly, why is he there? Why does he keep showing up? Like, it's not relevant to the story, but it's the reason why the story ends. Anyway, next, Disney Snow White. Come hum a merry tune, Anyway, this was probably most people's first introduction to the character of Snow White and the story of Snow White. This was Disney's first feature film ever. And the film was first published in 1937 at a respectable 90 minutes. Technically 89 if we're being exact. But I was shocked by that. I assumed that this movie was going to be an hour at most. For being the first feature animated film ever. I was like, damn, 90 minutes? Ambitious, aren't we? And I think it still holds up. For the most part. I think it's sweet. I'm slightly less confused by the prince being there, but we'll get there. And I would like to take this moment to address something from my last video. Yes, there is no canonical age for Snow White, technically. It's never mentioned in any media or written form that I could find that was verified by Disney. I hear you. But am I still going to say she's about 14? Yeah. Yeah, I am. I think 14 is a safe age to assign to this for this discussion, since all of our other princesses range from ages 16 to 22, and Snow White being visibly and thematically younger than all the other princesses. And by thematically, I mean how they style her, how they market her, how they present her. She's younger than all the other princesses. And also 7 times 2. Since this is the second version we're covering. Makes sense to me. So, this movie. We start off with the evil queen already hating Snow White. There's no preamble, there's no king, there's no queen, they're dead. Gone. Not important. Because they're not. She hates Snow White. She's jealous that she's going to grow up to outshine the queen, right? So the queen forces her to dress in rags and to work as a scullery maid. Also, important to note, she has a slave in the mirror. And there's no discussion around that. None. We just have to rock with it. We just have to be okay knowing that she has a slave in the mirror, and that's how she talks about him. Okay. Cool. We said she's evil, so I guess she's proven it. I'm also pretty sure that this mirror hates her. No reason for this in particular. It's just a vibe that the voice actor gives off. He sounds so tired of her shit from moment one. And I personally, that's a headcanon. We're not putting that on our list, but that's a headcanon for me personally. Also important to note, Disney is the one that coined the lips as red as blood, hair as dark as ebony, and skin as fair as snow. Versus the original just kind of said the colors, you know? But again, this emphasis on youth and vitality. And this movie from the get-go talks about how her grace adds to her beauty. That she's a beautiful child, but what makes her wonderful is how kind she is and how graceful she is. And the first time we see Snow White, she's at her wishing well. Which, how can I have forgotten about her wishing well, where that's where Sophia and Tyler got engaged in 2018 in Disneyland? I don't know, but I did. And I feel so disrespectful for forgetting. But the first thing we hear is Snow White making a wish at her wishing well while she's doing her chores. She's just mopping the stone steps. They have this obsession with making her mop concrete. That seems counterintuitive, but whatever. But she wishes for better times. She wishes for her love to find her, and she's dreaming of all the nice things he'll say. And my little romantic heart was aflutter. I can't deny. It was cute. It's so cute. And I just want to take a moment to talk about this as someone who's always been a lover girl. Because I got a few comments on my last video talking about how Disney princesses are problematic because they're selling the idea to children that you need a man and that your life goals need to be that you fall in love. Essentially, you need to be a housewife to feel fulfilled. And if that was true, the princes would have names. I'm just saying. Like, they would matter to these stories. They wouldn't just be an accessory for our princess to have it all, you know? Because only 3 out of all of the princesses have names that are stated in the movie because they matter to some degree in the movie. And not one of the princesses have the end goal of falling in love at the beginning of the movie. Except for Snow White. And we're getting there. Now, do I think that this is problematic? No. But is it ideal to be the only thing we tell children? Also no. So I'm a bit torn. Because I've been a lifelong lover girl. I've always had crushes, whether it be on boys, on girls, everyone. Y'all get crushes, you know? I was never boy crazy, where, you know, that stereotypical character is like, all she cares about is getting the attention of boys. Like our Wicked Queen. No. I was never boy crazy, but I always had crushes on people, and I've always wanted to fall in love. And it's great, by the way. Thanks for asking. But did that ever stop me from having other goals in life? Also, no. I think love and ambition can both exist in our body without diminishing one another. And I think that having her want to fall in love can just be a reflection of being that age and meeting a cute boy for the first time. And honestly, if I had seen this at the age of 14, I probably would have latched onto that and been like, that's like me. I like boys. And girls. Especially since I was a tomboy growing up, and I tried to reject everything feminine because I was told it was looked down upon. Because the Disney princesses are problematic. They only sell us this idea of having a man. Is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? Maybe. But that's a discussion for another day. Probably the same day that I talk about How to Train Your Dragon 3. Or Twilight. All this to say that I have a lot of nuanced feelings based on this concept. Based on my personal experiences, and it's just kind of been weighing on me since that last video. And every time I talk about the princesses, I'm going to continue to prove that to you. So, let's get back to it. Back to Snow White. She's playing with her wishing well. She's dreaming of one day a nice, kind love coming to find her. And enter stage left, unnamed prince number 1, who apparently is named Florian, but I learned that yesterday. Not in the movie. And I don't know if that's true. A cosplayer called him Florian, and so in my head that's his name. But he's enamored with her voice, and he starts singing with her. He finishes the song. Now we're having a duet. To which she takes off sprinting. Good girl, stranger danger. She runs away, but once she is safe inside the palace and she's on her little Juliet balcony, she fluffs up her hair, she straightens her rags, and she goes and she listens to him serenading her, and it's really quite sweet. It's very young love, you know what I mean? It's also very funny to me that he immediately starts singing about his one true love finding him after she sprints away from him in the opposite direction. Like, that's a little much, my dude. That's a little problematic, but that wasn't known at the time, and we only have 90 minutes to get everything on the screen, so we acknowledge it and ignore it. Because again, why is he here? But after this, the evil queen wants Snow White dead, so she sends her out into the forest, and then after sends her huntsman to go and carve out her heart. To which he finds her literally comforting a baby bird that had fallen out of its nest. And she's asking, like, can you fly? Do you need help? What do you need to this little baby bird? Because of course she is, because she's Snow White. God. And of course, because he chose the worst possible moment to try to kill a young girl comforting a baby bird. You can't do it. And I don't know why that's so funny to me. I'm like, dude, you made this so hard on yourself. You could have waited 30 seconds and it would have been a lot easier. But he can't do it. He sends her off running. And this is probably my favorite thing that is original to this movie and really only stays in this movie. But she's running through the forest, and the forest is getting more and more monstrous the further she runs into it. The more anxious she gets, the more monstrous the trees become, and I think that that's really cool visual storytelling. That's mwah. We like that. And because of this, I think Scary Forest needs to be on our list. It's also the thing that terrifies most children, as it should. And right after this is when we get the song, With a Smile and a Song, which is literally a song about putting good into the world and looking on the bright side even when you've been dealt a shitty hand. Sweet baby. And the way that she comforted the baby bird, now she's being comforted by all of the forest animals because they look at her and they see friend. She gives off friend vibes. And the animals help her find the dwarf cottage because she's fully lost. And then where we have our first huge difference to the original story. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. So she comes across the cottage and she sees that everything is made for little people. Not only that, but it's really dirty. It looked like it's never been cleaned. So she assumes it's a group of children who have been orphaned and who didn't have mothers to look after them and teach them how to look after themselves. And so she thinks to herself, oh, well, maybe if I help, if I clean for them, maybe they'll let me stay. And then she partners with the animals to clean. Now you wash the dishes, you tidy the room, you clean the fireplace, and I'll use the broom. She includes herself in the cleaning crew, put a pin in that. And cheerfully together, we can tidy up this place. We. But now, the dwarves come home, and they're suspicious how clean everything is, because they're like, we didn't do this. I think at one point they say, she hid all of our plates in the cupboards, why would she do that? And it's just very silly. But they find Snow White passed out in bed because she's tired, she's been running, she's been cleaning, she's eepy. But they find her under a blanket, and they think that she's a monster. And they try to fight her off, and they are not good at it, let it be known. And this is a moment we could have glossed over, but I only bring it up because of the use of the word we. Because the dwarves only use the word we when deciding what to do. What are we gonna do? We have to do this together. And personally, I think the word we is one of the most intimate words in the English language. And so for all of them to only use the word we when discussing what's going on right now, whether intentional or not, brings up that idea of community again. Really important. Really hammering it home. Again, whether intentional or not, it stood out to me as someone who's dissecting this, trying to pick out all the pieces. What makes this work? It stands out. Anyway, they all meet our girly, and Grumpy hates her. Like, dead ass, he says, all women are poison. And I was like, sir? I didn't expect to find, like outright misogyny in my classic Disney movie. I thought it'd be like a little more subtle than that, if any at all. But especially not with a character who's in the wrong. Like, he says it and everyone's like, Grumpy, like, everyone's like, bro, you're being a lot, you need to get over it. You know that's not true, you're just mad. And I thought that was just really funny. But anyway, and once they learn that she's the princess and she says, no, the queen, she's evil, she wants to kill me, they're like, yes, no, that makes sense, we have to kill her. Okay, ride or dies, makes sense. But I think that this moment where they meet is a really good moment to show graciousness and what that means. And I think the best way to describe it is she talks like she cares. Like, she talks to each one of them individually, like she cares what they have to say, and like she's really listening to them. Which I know is like a big sweep to make about an old movie, but let me cook. Because she introduces herself first. She goes, no, I'm Snow White. And when they go to introduce themselves, she goes, no, wait, let me guess. Because all of their beds have their names on them. She's cleaned the house. And she takes a moment with each and every one of them guessing their names based off their personality. And it's not a quick thing either. Like, she takes a moment with each of them. Like, she takes care to take a moment and address them each individually. Like, it's really disarming. And as a viewer, I had to rewatch it. Because to be disarming and to be present is a very specific skill, and not many people have it. And it makes sense for a character in Snow White. And for all of that nuance to kind of come up in just how she addresses the 7 dwarves, I'm like, ooh, someone cooked here. Now, on the other hand, does she have to teach them how to wash their hands before dinner? Yes, and I don't like it. I don't like the narrative that they're men, so they're dumb and they don't know how to clean up after themselves, because what is that telling, like, our boys who are watching the movie? You know what I mean? Like, personally, I wish it leaned more into, no, they're just hardworking men and everyday luxuries, like, aren't important. You know, like, I saw a TikTok, for instance. I don't expect the Disney creative team back in the day to know what TikTok I'm talking about, but I saw a TikTok of someone who was working with their hands, and they had a lot of, like, soot on their hands, and a trick that a master of their craft, I forgot what craft it was, but a trick that the master of the craft taught them when they were apprentice was, if you rub it on your shirt and it doesn't come off on your clothes, it won't come off on your food, so it's fine to eat, right? And I wish that we almost had more of that type of narrative. Like, no, they work all day, and they're dirty because other things take more priority, not because they don't know how. You know what I mean? Something a little more realistic, I guess. But I also know that that's a really detailed, nuanced thing to want in a children's movie from the 30s. And not only that, this song is absolutely just to teach kids how to wash their hands. Like, that's the point of the song, obviously, and for filler. So it's fine in the grand scheme of things, it's just not my favorite, and that's also fine. So, and I didn't think I was gonna mention this, but when Snow White goes to bed, she prays. She prays to bless the 7 men who have took her in and helped her, and she prays that for Grumpy to like her, to warm up to her. And I'm only religious culturally, but I think that that's precious. It's very wholesome. And I mention it only because I fear it must be included in the canon, because, spoiler alert, it shows up in the next one as well. So, we're preemptively adding it to the list. But, hard cut, back to the evil queen. Being evil. She learns that Snow White is still alive, and so she does magic to disguise herself, and one of the ingredients for the spell to disguise herself, she casts wind to fan the flames of hate, and the line that I wrote is, I aspire to be that level of a hater one day. I think today's the day. I think today's the day. The new Snow White is the wind that fans my flames of hatred. Is the only way I can describe that movie, so I'm glad I made a note of it back when I watched the original movie. Anyway, she doesn't let it go that Snow White still alive, even though she is 7 hills away. Like, they make sure to point out how far away she is. And that's commitment, that's dedication. If you're gonna say anything about the queen, is that she's at least proactive, you know? But she disguises herself, and she makes the poison apple that we all love. And I wanted to point out that the original cure is actually love's first kiss, not true love's kiss. Very minor difference, but oh my god. It got my gears going as a storyteller, because, like, what a powerful magic action spell component that must be in a world like this, because humans don't fall in love often, and when we do, it's like love's first kiss is never planned for, not really, not usually. And so if you miss it, you have to wait to see if you fall in love again. Like, ooh, like, as a story component, as a magical component to a spell, it got my mouth watering. I loved it. Oh my god, I ate it up. But while I'm sitting here thinking of an author's point of view, off Queenie goes into the forest. Off to kill a child. And the reason why Snow White even comes to trust the queen, because she only comes this once, because this is different than the original, she only comes the one time, but the reason why Snow White comes to trust her is because she's kind, and the evil queen takes advantage of that. Because the animals, the same way that they knew Snow White was friend, they know evil queen is foe, and they immediately attack the evil queen. And Snow White sticks up for her. She runs out of the cottage, and she's like, no, leave her alone, she's just an old woman, like, be kind, be nice, guys, go away. And as a thank you, that's why the queenie offers her the apple, telling her, oh, it's a magic apple, it's gonna make all of your dreams come true. Because on the way up, she heard Snow White singing about her crush, and one day my prince will come and my dreams will come true. Oh, well, now they will. For being kind, for sticking up for the little guy. Here you go, that's your reward. Evil. Evil. Also, Queenie tells Snow White that apple pie makes men's mouth water, which is gross, and that's problematic to have in a children's book. But that's the point. We're not supposed to agree with the evil queen. She's being gross on purpose. That's all she knows how to be. Interesting. And if I was going to insert a life lesson, it would be in this moment here for my own children if we were watching this movie. Especially since Queenie dies literally right after this. Runs away and falls off a cliff. And this ending is actually quite rushed, just like the last one. Snow White dies. Queenie off the cliff. Snow White into the sleeve protector. Dwarves crying, animals crying, keeping vigil. Enter stage left, random prince number 1, he's back. And he kisses her on the mouth. In grief? Maybe? I don't know why. I will never understand why they have to kiss on the mouth, personally. But wham bam, thank you ma'am, she's saved by the prince. And they ride off into the sunset, leaving the dwarves behind. I hate that they leave the dwarves behind. I hate it so much. And I know that we're talking about how we'll write a new Snow White at the end of the video, but I need to mention this now. Fuck y'all for leaving them behind. That is fucked. That is so mean. They took care of you, and I thought we were in this together. Anyway, that's Disney Snow White. Ta-da! I like that they tried to give Nameless Prince number 1 more to do here. Like, he kind of shows up at the beginning, and, like, that's the setup for him to come at the end. Like, so he doesn't feel as useless, but he's not moving from that little card in the corner. He gets to stay there. He's still pretty much an accessory. And I think that they didn't fully change the ending simply because they're like, well, that's how the fairy tale ends. You know what I mean? Like, that's the vibe. Don't fix it if it ain't broken, especially since I don't think that ending would have been considered a big deal or controversial in the 30s when it came out. Women get married. There you go. Yay. It's gross. But again, intention versus impact are two different things. We can acknowledge the intention and talk about the impact separately. And the impact is ick. It's gross. I don't like it. Do I think the ending needs to be updated? Yes, I do. And not just from, like, a modern sensibility standpoint, but just from a satisfying ending standpoint. The prince is not important to the story. He's an accessory to Snow White, so you can buy the doll duo pack. It's not satisfying that he's the end-all be-all and he's the one that does something in the end to get her saved. So he gets to stay in his little corner by himself. Because why are you here? And I think for our list of what makes a good Snow White, we're going to add a few things and expand on a few things. Because I do think that this is a good Snow White. Because it hits everything on the list, right? Community, check. Graciousness, check. Evil obsessed with use, also check. So it takes on that last version and it builds on the canon, right? Like the animals, for instance. In the original, it's only mentioned that the birds grieve for Snow White. In this one, they have a relationship from the beginning. It builds out Snow and it shows that she's the type of person to sit and talk to the birds because they sing like they have something to say and she wants to hear what it is. And that is so important to the concept of Snow White that it has infiltrated our idea of what it means to be a princess as a whole. That level of graciousness. So we're adding magical animal connection to our list. We're also adding that Snow White stands up for the little guy. It's a super small moment, but when she stands up for the queen against her friends who are doing something wrong, it's really just in line with this theme of grace and community, and it makes sense for the character. We're also adding dreaming / wishing for happily ever after because of the wishing well. And the fact that that is the lie that gets her to eat the apple. And Snow, no matter what, always starts off the story in a position of abuse from an evil stepmother. So having her wishing in her well or dreaming on stars for happily ever after, it not just makes sense, but it really works for a motivation for the character. This isn't a very juicy story, so having the wish for happily ever after and putting one foot in front of the other in order to get there, it's easy, it's concise, it makes sense. We are also adding familial relationships. I think it's important to acknowledge that the men in Snow White's life kind of have to see her as this sweet, innocent girl that needs to be taken care of to a degree. Like, the huntsman doesn't hurt her because she's darling. The dwarves take care of her because she's kind. And if we don't have that level of innocence to those relationships, it feels very overbearing and predatory almost. And not only that, but having grown man with young girl forced to be besties relationship, very wholesome trope, very wholesome dynamic, very older brother vibes. Innocent, sweet, important. And did I like this movie? Yeah, enough. I think it's charming in the way that I think all old animated films are charming. It's nice and slow paced. It can take you by surprise sometimes, which is fun. Would I show it to my kids? Sure. But I would also watch it with them to talk to them about how, like, beauty is more than skin deep. And if you obsess about looks, you're gonna fall off a cliff. Stranger danger. Stuff like that. But also, I don't have kids yet, so on to the next. Honestly, Snow White and the Huntsman was the first movie to come to mind when the idea of this video started ruminating in my mind. Like, looking at polar opposite versions of the same story and what do they have in common, I thought that was a really juicy and good idea, and that's kind of how this video was born. At least I thought it was enough of a good idea to pay real life money to rent the movie. Because tell me why I paid $3.99 to rent this movie in HD and it only ever played in 480p the entire time. That feels personal. I hate to say it, that feels personal. I have heard through the grapevine that this movie was bad, but I had never watched it before now. And honestly, I started watching it at regular speed, and then slowly I just kept speeding it up because I just wanted it over with. But also, now having seen the new Snow White, you know what? It ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. The worst sin that this movie commits is that it's boring. And I'll take that any day. Maybe it's better than I thought it was, okay? Maybe. Because, like, the stuff it does well, at least. Like, I don't know. Let's just get into it. Let's talk about it. It's not dark. What are you talking about? This is gonna be a long video, okay? Like, sitting up's hard. If you see any awkward cuts, no, you didn't. Okay, where were we? Moving on to our second color. That's where we were. Should I do it all pink? No, I want pink and white. I'm gonna do the white first. Yeah, I'm gonna do the white first. Okay. So, it's a bit of a weird start. So, the queen pricks her finger on a rose bush, and the blood that falls onto the snow apparently is so striking that it makes her want a child with skin as pale as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as a raven's wing. And I don't know why, but hearing it in this movie specifically made me go, like, doesn't that mean that you're sick? You know? Like, I don't know why. The way that it's phrased, like, pale, is like, oh, honey, take an iron supplement. Like, it's okay. And I don't know, maybe it's because the screen was almost completely white when they said it that, like, really leaned into that. I'm not sure. But me and my partner, because I could not watch this one alone, I had to make someone suffer with me. But me and my partner both went, that's not right. Because fair can mean, like, light-skinned and with, like, really clear skin. Pale means almost, like, a sunkenness to your face, right? Like, it means you're pale, you look sick, you look weak. And that's where the nuance of words kind of comes into play. And honestly, this should have been my first crack in the glass with this movie that is, like, almost quite right but not quite. But anyway, we continue. The queen dies, like always, and in the king's grief he's tricked into battle, ? They say a war, but we only ever see one battle, but whatever, it could be a war, who knows. But in that battle they find a single prisoner of war. And she's so gorgeous that the king just has to have her as his wife the next day. Like, she's stunning. It's, Charlize Theron? Theron? I actually don't know how to say it. I'm so sorry. Charlize, if I can call you that. She's serving cunt this entire role. Every second. Oh my god. Serving face, serving body. She's gorgeous. Jesus. So I get it, unnamed king. But also the next day? Oh my god. Like, didn't your wife die 3 days ago? Like, in your grief, you were tricked into doing this. Like, it's you should still be grieving, my dude. I'm never gonna be the first person to tell someone how to grieve, but anyway, we have our mad queen, Ravenna. And on their wedding night, no-name king, he's kissing all up on her neck and her chest and everything, and she's laying there, staring at the ceiling, talking about being taken advantage of and being abused by men. And he keeps kissing her. So when she kills him in the next moment, honestly, I'm on her side. I'm like, no, he deserved that. Get it. We support women's wrongs in this house, you know? Because, like, I think it's just common human decency that when someone is talking about being assaulted, you stop and listen, you know? It's a vulnerable thing, but whatever. You can't even see it, and that's fine. And so, Ravenna, and yes, that is her name, and I'm a little torn if I like it or not, because it's kind of like a fancy version of the name Raven, because she has a big raven motif in this movie, and I'm the first one to love a good on-the-nose name. This one feels a little too on the nose, a little too, dementia Ravenway, if you know what I mean. But Ravenna is basically a Trojan horse. She kills the king, and she immediately opens the gates to the kingdom to let in her army and her brother to take over the kingdom. And she has a chip on her shoulder, rightfully so, about being taken advantage of by men and about being used to replace and be replaced as they see fit. And I love this. I love this. Oh, it's juicy. It's good. And I think it's a really good way to just, you expand this character, and now there's depth, and now there's likability, and now you're kind of on her side, and you get it. Like, ooh, I like it. Like, having her be obsessed with staying young, because when a woman stays young and beautiful, the world is hers. I love that. Not just generic evil, you know? I love that so much, and it is the only thing I love about this movie, but that's fine. I love it enough. I love it enough for it to be the only thing I love about this movie. Because she takes over the kingdom, like, that same night that she gets married. Cool, effective, I get it, you know? And then she kills the entire castle, and then throws Snow White in the tower. Okay, sure. But then she drives the kingdom into the ground by killing people and causing the land to die, maybe from a form of magic, or maybe just killing off important people, unclear. But she throws the entire kingdom into poverty. And I'm sitting there with my history buff boyfriend going, I don't think Ravenna knows how a kingdom works. Ravenna, babe, what's your export? I'm just wondering, because for you to stay wealthy, you need to keep the kingdom running. Normally it's not a big deal in movies, you know, about, like, how does the kingdom work? But it feels so important to the story that the kingdom is so poor that I couldn't ignore it. Like, literally, the next scene, she's looking down. Like, let me paint the picture for you. She is standing there looking down at poor people, fighting over each other to get fresh water, while using her claw nail to pick out and raw dog bird hearts. Talking to her brother about how is she not just a gracious queen, she's more gracious than the one that they grew up knowing, whatever. And then she strips naked in front of her brother and slowly, dramatically walks into what I hope is milk and takes a bath. And that's where you get the scene of her raising up like this, which I was like, show the tits. Do it. I dare you. But she came out like this, holding her boobies. It looked like covered in white paint. It was actually quite gross. Just weird vibes all around. Anyway, Snow White, she got locked up at about the age of 7. We see her. She's very young. She got captured when the kingdom was going to shit and everyone tried to flee. She got captured and she had to stay behind. She's about 7. Very young. And we catch up with her now, maybe 18-ish. And once again, Girly is praying to our Heavenly Father, asking for help. She's actually reciting the Lord's Prayer, which I don't remember off the top of my head. And can we count this as wishing? It's over a fire, not a well. But I am counting it. The implication is there that she's praying for a better life, right? It's implied. Also, she has flash sleeves in this version. Like I said, it's one of the most iconic things about her. You see the flash sleeves when you think Snow White. That's why they used their colors for the cup. And also, do I know the fashion terminology for the flash sleeves? No, and I don't know how to look it up because if I type it into Google, all Google shows me is the fashion for the new movie, which looks awful. So, we're just gonna call them Snow White flash sleeves. Anyway, cut back to the queen. And she's killing bitches. Apparently she can magically stop hearts, and apparently magic has a great cost. It makes her weak and look old, right? It sucks the vitality out of her. And then she has to call a maiden named Greta. She has to call her from the tower, and she sucks the vitality out of Greta. Just into her, which then makes the queen look normal and makes Greta look old, right? And I love the idea behind this. It's just not shown very well. Like, for instance, the mirror. The queen has this giant gold disc. It's not really reflective. It's just kind of a metal disc. And she talks to it. And from her point of view, we see this molten gold bedsheet ghost come out and talk to her. And that's like her evil mirror, right? Mirror, mirror on the wall. And she's asking questions and is answering her. But then from her brother's creepy-ass point of view, around, like, down the hall and around the corner, he's looking in, like, being weird. He doesn't see anything. She's talking to, like, blank air. And so it makes it kind of hard to understand, like the magic system, what's real and what's not, what is like the actual extent of her power, what actually fuels her power. Is it youth, vitality, or beauty? Because all three of those things are slightly different, but they're being used interchangeably here. And that's why I brought up the importance between fair and pale. Like, they mean two different things, and so youth, vitality, and beauty, all three kind of mean different things and could be used as different things, but they're all being used interchangeably, so it just muddies the water of how the magic system works. And it's just weird. And she learns that Snow White will be her undoing, right? But we don't know what that means fully. Because we don't know, nor do we ever fully learn what the full extent of, like, why she has her powers. Yeah, we never learn, like, why she has them or what she does with them. It's just generic power. You know, we learn by Ferris blood it is done. That's how she got her power shoved into her against her will. But by Ferris blood it's undone. That Snow White will lead to her death. But that's like a lot of word soup, because what is it? Exactly. I don't think the movie knows. So we don't know. Like, what is being undone by Ferris blood? So you see what I mean about a lot of cool ideas, and it has a lot of pretty visuals, but there's no real meat to the story. It's just kind of generic, cool ideas shoved into a movie. So, it made it kind of hard to enjoy. But anyway, she learns that Snow White will be her undoing, like I said. And so she sends her creeper brother to go fetch Snow White so she can drain her, right? And what does he do? Try to take advantage? That's right, try to take advantage. You're good at this game. He tries to assault her, and because of that moment, she's able to escape. We love when men ruin everything, I guess, because a bird appeared in her window and showed her that there was a nail that was in the brick that was kind of loose, and so she's able to kind of rip it out, and that's what she uses to slash the guy and escape, right? Why would that have to be pointed out to her? She's been locked up since she was 7, and humans crave stimulation more than we should. So she would know every inch of that cell. She would know every nook, every cranny. She would know how many bricks are in that cell if she had been there with minimal human contact since she was 7, especially as a child, needing stimulation and needing something to occupy your brains. So if the pale thing wasn't a huge crack in the glass, this was. Because why did it have to be given to her? Like, it didn't. She could have just known it was there. You know what I mean? Like, what? And that's like a huge trend in this movie. Things are just given to her. You don't believe me? But wait, there's more. So she slashes the guy, takes off running, and she's able to escape the palace guards by baseball sliding into a water runoff system. The castle is like on a big cliff that's like seaside. So she escapes by baseball sliding into there and shooting off and being spit out into the ocean, right? And I could believe that. I could believe that she didn't hit the rocks down below out of pure luck. I could believe that she even knows how to swim because the kingdom is oceanside. I could believe these things. I could suspend my disbelief. But what made me pause the movie and go get my partner and make him sit with me and watch this movie was that she washes up to shore and she gets on the beach and she's still following the fucking birds. And there, sitting perfectly for her, is a white Mustang. Just sitting there, just waiting for her to get on top so they can ride off. And she does. Why the fuck is there a horse on the beach by itself, just waiting for Snow White to get on? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, this isn't what it means to be a strong female character, guys. This is the Mary Sue effect, and I hate that this movie is making me use that frickin' phrase on my channel. How dare you? Because everyone loves to call any female lead a Mary Sue, and I hate it. Because usually it's not called for. But in this case, I think it's called for. Like, it's not good. And when it happens, it makes the movie so hard to enjoy because she's not doing anything. It's just being given to her, and she's just following what's being given to her, and she's like, okay. You know? Like, that's not interesting. But she escapes on her magic horse that she then Yoshis into a tar pit a la Never-Ending Story. Whatever. Even though the horse was only around for 3 minutes. Whatever, but she takes off running through the forest, and instead of the forest being a reflection of her building anxiety and fear, she trips and inhales a bunch of mushroom spores, and she goes on a bad, like, acid trip, and it's terrifying. And this movie loves to use the CGI molten metal effect all the time. They use it for everything. Alright, it looks cool. It's icky. It gives me a visceral reaction when I watch it, but okay. And then she passes out in the forest. And the queen then sends the huntsman to go find her. And so the queen sends the huntsman into the forest to go kill Snow White and carve out her heart. And it's implied that she wants to eat her heart. which I hope is true, because I love it. I love that she's eating hearts. It's so metal. It's so funny. But our huntsman is a drunk. He's a horrible drunk because his wife is dead, and he seeks the bug. Spare your threat, sir, for the bug with which you frighten me with I do seek. He wants to self-exit. That's a Shakespeare reference. He craves the bug. It's one of my favorite monologues, and I'm going to reference it whenever possible. But he craves the bug. But the queen wants him, apparently, because no one else knows the forest like him. Do we then have a team of 7 hunters go into the forest literally later in the movie because they're the only ones who know the darkest parts of the forest? Yes. But we have so many other things that we need to talk about that we're just going to glaze over that. Dear God. Oh my God. Okay. But like always, the huntsman cannot kill Snow White. Instead, he sends her off. Which, like, eventually... There's a lot of back and forth. Eventually, he just ends up going with her, right? Like, the 7 other hunters show up. He ends up killing the queen's brother. It's a whole thing. The queen promised to revive the dead wife, and then they laugh at him believing that the queen can revive his dead wife. It's a lot, okay? We learned that the queen and her brother were, like, magically linked because when he kills him, he's, like, begging for his sister to save him. And she's also feeling the pain, but she can't bring it in herself to save him because she doesn't have the power to do it. I don't know. It's a lot. A lot happens. And none of it's explained. But eventually, Snow White and the huntsman, they head off, and they come across a bridge troll. Upon exiting the forest, they come across a bridge, and there's a troll underneath. And the huntsman, who never gets a name, by the way, he, again, tells her, leave, run, I got this, let me help. But he gets his ass handed to him, and Snow White ends up saving him by awkwardly standing there and screaming at the troll. Literally just... Wait. And the troll's gone. Why does that work? Because it's convenient, that's why. Like, we could have had her do something clever and earn the troll's respect, or to scare them off by doing something clever. I don't know. But no, instead we have her yell, and then we have a camera linger on her face with very pretty lighting for an awkwardly long amount of time. Whatever, they exit the forest, and they come across a riverside village with only women, all who have scars running down their face as if tears. They ask why, and the reason is because our scars protect us. Without our beauty, we're useless to the queen. And I didn't need to mention this, we could gloss over this. Again, is it youth? Is it beauty? Is it life? Is it vitality? What is it that fuels the queen? Exactly. Because when she drained Greta at the beginning of the movie, it made her old and it made the queen young. So it's youth, but you don't need to be beautiful to be youthful. You know what I mean? But the women are saying that it's their beauty, if they're ugly, that they're safe. But I'm like, you got a lot of kids running around here that she can just, they don't gotta be beautiful to be youthful. Like I said, this entire story just feels very messy. The 7 huntsmen that are following them, they find the village, they set it on fire. The huntsman was, like, gonna leave, and then it was set on fire, and then Snow White, like, doesn't guilt him into staying, but kind of guilts him into staying. He's like, why weren't you there? Blah, 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 blah. But we escape, and then we come across the 7 dwarves. And they have names, but they're not memorable. They're just kind of like generic dwarf names, like Beef or something. And the dwarves, kind of slimy, kind of gross. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. They trap our 2 heroes, and they just want to kill them, which is fine. Or they want to turn her in because there's, like, a bounty, which is fine. That's their prerogative. But one of them says, I can't kill a young woman, but another one is like, oh, I will. And then they all do that gross laugh that men do when they know something that you don't. But the 7 huntsmen show up, and so our party has to run. So, okay, well, we're all running together, I guess. Just cut them down, we gotta go, or else they're gonna kill all of us. And they end up coming to a place called Sanctuary, and this is where the fairies live. And I like that this world has so much magic. Snow White, as a fairy tale, feels very fantasy-inspired. You know what I mean? And even though the queen has magic and not other people have magic, this version, Snow White and the Huntsman, having the world be magical, fits. I like that. I like that a lot. But you know what doesn't fit? These little fairies that crawl out of the birds' bellies like baby kangaroos. It made me scream out loud. What the fuck do you mean you had little joeys in there this entire time? And why do they look like that? Oh my god. They just give me such a huge ick. They're just, I don't know. The way they're designed, the fact that they're there, I hate them. I hate them so much. And then these fairies take her to see God, I guess. I wish I was kidding, but we meet Discount Aslan, but instead of a lion, it's a stag with giant antlers, which I do love. I love that stags and with big antlers are like king of the forest, kings with their crowns, the kings of nature. I love that imagery. This just pissed me off. But there is a 5-minute shot of Snow White silently following these berry-furred things, these bird fairy things, as they bring her to Fairy God, and the dwarves eventually catch up, and the elder dwarf is like, the evil queen is the embodiment of death, and the princess is the embodiment of life. I'm gonna follow her to the end of the world. And I'm here like, why? What has she done? She followed these two fairies, led her to God. What? She hasn't done anything. She was trapped most of her life, and then she met God, and that was it. Is that enough? And she's not even, like, the chosen one cliche. She's just there. Like, at this point, she's technically been nice to children and run away when someone told her to, and that's it. She hasn't even had the choice to run away. Someone else has told her to run away. But anyway, the Mad Queen still wants to kill Snow White, as is canon. So she disguises herself as Snow White's childhood best friend. I like this, actually, for the most part. It led to more questions than answers. But she disguises herself as Snow White's best friend, who has been here for a while. His name is William. I haven't mentioned him. But they grew up together as friends. He's the Duke's son that was, like, friends with her father. They were separated when the queen killed everyone. The Duke is still leading a rebellion from his castle down south. And William, her friend, he was one of the 7 hunters to find her because he didn't know how to navigate the forest. So he showed up and was like, I'm talented with a bow. Take me. And then killed their bowmen to go with them. So he's been there the entire time. And he's also in love with her. And so the queen tricks her by disguising herself as Will. And so they have, like, a romantic moment. She was kind of eating, not gonna lie, she was kind of eating it up. But they're having a romantic moment together. And she teases her with the apple, and they kiss, and then she tosses the apple to her. And Will used to tease her with an apple when they were kids because they had this big apple tree. But it's a good callback. It's a good callback to them being kids and him teasing her. And so when she takes a bite of the apple and it kills her, it's like, ooh, good, it's satisfying. Because the reason Snow White bites into the apple has to be important. What is important to her enough to get her to bite this? It's quite clever. I like it. But she falls, and the Huntsman and real Will do end up finding her. Does she scream? No, why do they wake up? I don't know. The fucking belly fairies might have woken them up. But they go and they find her, and they find her dead in the snow. And they bring her back to the Duke's castle, Will's dad's castle. And Will does try to kiss her because, again, he's in love with her. And it doesn't work. Okay, so then the Huntsman comes in and laments about his dead wife for way too long. I wish I was kidding, but the entire time he's talking about how much he loves his dead wife and how she was so good to him and what he did for her, or what she did for him, and how he was fucked up, but she made him a better person. Just how distraught he was over his dead wife. And at the very end, he says, and you reminded me of her, and then he kisses her, and that works? See, that pissed me off, because why does this work? Because Will loves her, and she has affection for him, enough where she kisses him voluntarily in the forest. They're teasing, they're flirting. You know, they have a bit of a connection, but he genuinely loves her. He's thought about her his entire life because he was the last one to see her. She like slipped from his grip, basically, right? Very Anastasia. So if they had kissed, it would have made sense. But no, the Huntsman has to be the one to kiss her. The Huntsman, who was so distraught over his dead wife at most 2 days ago, so distraught that he had to be drunk in order to drown out his sorrow, so distraught that he actively seeked the bug. No, his kiss works. And I don't understand it. So I understand that maybe she has feelings for him, and that's why it works. Okay, I can see you there, I can get that. Why does he kiss her on the lips? And this is a sticking point I've had with every Snow White so far. I will say it. The kiss on the lips feels weird. It feels gross. But here especially it feels gross because he's talking about his dead wife, not her. I don't know. I screamed when it happened. The second he walked in crying, lamenting about his dead wife, I was like, no, please, no. Ah! And then it happened, and I hated it. So, and like I said, the familial connection between Snow White and those who fight for her feels important, because if not, it feels like she's kind of being taken advantage of. Like, people need to want to help her because they want to help her, not because they think they can get anything out of her, right? And again, we can argue that the kiss works because she has affection for him, not the other way around. But then why did he kiss her on the lips? It's just, anyway, I need to put on a coat too before I lose my goddamn mind. Anyway, the girl who lives makes this grand entrance in the Duke's castle plaza thing and makes this big inspirational speech about how she has to be the one to kill the queen. She saw into her mind, she knows how to kill her. And so she rallies the troops in this big inspirational hoorah, and they storm the castle at low tide. And she rocks up on a horse in full body armor, ready to take the lead. And I can't get past that this girl would not be able to do that. Like, do you know how heavy armor is? She's been incarcerated half of her life. Kristen Stewart herself has talked about how this scene was awful to film because it was so painful to be on horseback in full body armor because it's heavy and it hurts. Now imagine if she wasn't a healthy woman who led an active lifestyle and was an incarcerated child. The ride to the castle alone would kill her. Don't try to pull the wool over my eyes. Whoever the director was, I forgot your name. Don't do that to me. Don't call me stupid, okay? I'm fighting for your life here, trying to find the good in this story. Anyway, she fights the queen, and she does kill the queen by stabbing her and saying, by Ferris blood, it's done. And by Ferris blood, it's undone, whatever it actually was. But I will say, I do love that Snow White is the one to kill the queen. I love that. And I will give that to her. That is her God-given right to kill her queen. That is, mwah, that's fair. I love that. But other than that, I think this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And honestly, I thought it was going to be the worst of the bunch. And in the original script, that was the story. That was like the lead up. That we have all these, and then this is how it's done wrong, you know? But I cannot, in good faith, put this at the bottom of the list since seeing the new Snow White. Because at least this one trusted me to know how a movie works. Like, you remember how the queen was talking into her magic mirror, and then her brother was, like, creeping around the corner, but he didn't see anything? Like, was it exactly clear what the movie was trying to tell us? No, it could be a few different things. It could be a few different interpretations. But I will take that any day of the week over the brother then saying out loud, well, I wish I knew what her mirror was telling her. But I'm not the one our mother blessed with magic. Oh well. And not only that, but this movie, it took some massive swings, dude. Like, it had a lot of cool ideas, a lot of things it wanted to say. It just didn't do a good job of saying them. And that's fine. But the ideas were cool. The concept, the concept behind it was cool. And then Maleficent came out a couple years later, so am I saying it's a trendsetter? I don't know. And I love the characterization of the Mad Queen. They don't call her the Mad Queen, but I call her the Mad Queen, because that's what I started calling her in my script. We have the Wicked Queen, the Evil Queen, and the Mad Queen. I like that they're different. I think it's cool. But I love that she's obsessed with youth to the point of self-destruction. Like, that makes sense. And the first part of the movie, I was on her side. Being dead ass, I was like, ooh, yes, queen, go off, do your thing. Because she is justified to the point. The only time I wasn't on her side, it was when she started messing with her own profits. Like, if she had kept the kingdom thriving, even if she had hoarded most of the wealth, I could probably still be on her side. But the land itself is dying because of her. And if that's the case, then she's messing with her bag, and that's dumb. And I can't support dumb women, I'm sorry. I can't. Women's rights? Yes. Women's wrongs? Yes. Dumb women? Oh man. You're making it rough. You're making it hard, okay? And I love that they incorporated the eating hearts from the original fairy tale. I love that. That's so fun. So fun. I think that this is probably the best version that expanded the Evil Queen in the best way. I'll be completely honest. And I'll be so for real with you. Like, halfway through the movie, I'm sitting there and I look at Wub, my partner, he's sitting next to me. I look at him and I go, you know, this feels like it was going to be a different movie entirely. And then the director realized he was in love with Kristen Stewart. And then I remember that they had a cheating scandal. And I went, oh, it all makes sense. Because there are too many gorgeous shots that just linger on her face looking pretty. There are too many. And I know I said it, but I like the way that this expanded the fantasy side of Snow White. I like that. It's fun. Like, having the world itself be more fantastical, I think makes a lot of sense. And while I wasn't the biggest fan of the Dark Forest being so magic, that's just my own personal bias. And objectively, I think it's a cool idea. I think it's fun. Personally, subjectively, I like when the forest shows the inner life of Snow White. And as she runs into it, it gets more monstrous because she gets more scared. I think that's cool. I think they're both good options separately. That's all. But now, do I think it was a good Snow White? Let's check the boxes. Sense of community. Barely. Graciousness. Barely. Evil obsessed with youth? Yes. Scary forest? Yes. Praying? Yes. Magical animal connection? Yes, but I'm sad about it. Dreaming, wishing for happily ever after? Kinda. Praying for protection? Sure. Familial relationship? No. I don't think so. I think the movie is going to tell me yes, but I think it fails at every turn. Because they tell us that the dwarves care about her and that William loves her and that the Huntsman loves her. But the first one feels forced, the second feels confusing, and the third one is gross. So it kind of feels like she has a crush on her older cousin that she met for the first time. So I'm not counting it. I'm not. And then White Prince. No prince this time around. The Duke's son was, like, the closest one to being the prince, but he didn't appear stage left, so we're all good in that department. Is it a Snow White? Yes. Is it a good Snow White? It's a bad movie, but a decent. No. It's a bad movie, and it's a mediocre Snow White. I think it would be a mediocre movie if it was an evil queen movie. Then I think it would have been better. Anyway, like I said, I think the worst sin that this movie commits is that it's boring and a little confusing. At the end of the day, I'll take that. I'll take that over what we have next. No more procrastinating. We gotta get to it. Snow White, 2025. And I'm not gonna front with you, I'm gonna be completely honest. I have over 4 pages of notes for this movie, which is more than any of the others damn near combined. Which is wild to consider. I was taking notes live in the theater, versus everything else I watched at home, and so I was able to pause, get direct quotes, make sure I was taking enough notes to actually talk about things, because I would get wrapped up, because I like movies, so I'd get wrapped up in movies. So the fact that I was just tapping away non-stop, that's not a good sign. It's safe to say that I had a lot of thoughts the entire time. Don't worry about me taking notes on my phone in the theater. When Webb and I went, there was no one there. And we assumed we were going to have the theater all to ourselves. But as the movie was starting, a group of like 3 women with about 7 to 10 children, I lost count, but they showed up and they were 2 rows in front of us. And then very last second, another couple showed up just like down the row from us. So couple, children, I angled my phone this way. That way I couldn't bother anyone. I just want to make that clear. I don't condone bothering people in movie theaters. That's why when I love at night. But let's just get into it. I hate this movie. There are genuinely times where my mouth dropped open because I just couldn't wrap my head around what was happening, or how we got here, or how people thought this story was okay, or how this was a good story at all. Like, I hated this movie. But before we even get into the movie, we have to talk about the marketing of the movie. And personally, I don't care for Rachel Zegler as an actress. I want to. I think that she is, I genuinely want to, because I think that she is incredibly talented, at least singing-wise. Acting-wise, I think she's okay, but singing-wise, I think, oh my god, she's gorgeous. Every time I hear her perform, I have to stop what I'm doing. Like, I'm left in awe. Her voice is so crisp. She has so much power. Like, she is genuinely so talented. And not only that, but I always want to root for Latinas in the entertainment industry. As a fellow Latina, I want to root for her. I want to be proud to be like, oh yeah, look at her. I can't. And part of that is because I can't get on board with her, specifically because of interviews for Snow White. And it starts off with her talking in interviews that she had no idea that she was auditioning for Snow White at first. She kind of figured it out mid-audition. And she was like, oh, that's okay. But that's fine. That's literally fine by itself. But she continues and says she never actually liked Snow White growing up as a child, that she had only ever seen it once before she was cast, that she didn't like it, she thought it was scary, and that she would always, like, stay away from it. Okay, fine. And then she says that she thinks the prince is creepy and a stalker.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
Which, again, by itself is fine. All of these thoughts are fine independently of each other. But also they could have stayed inside thoughts until after the movie was out. You know what I mean? Like, just from a marketing perspective. But there's nothing wrong with that on paper. With any of those thoughts. On paper, there's nothing wrong with it. Where it starts to get kind of sticky is when it's partnered with her talking about how her Snow White is going to be nothing like the original. That she wouldn't need a man to come save her.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Also, the fact that she's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's the proactive one, and she's the one who set the terms.
That it's going to be like an actual strong female lead. And that maybe the co-star playing the prince. People knew it was like her romantic interest, but I don't think people knew whether he was a prince or not, but we're going to say prince. But that her co-star playing the prince might not even show up in the final movie, because he's not important. And that's just showbiz, baby.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
And now it's starting to feel like she's taking unnecessary digs at everyone, like for fun. And that's not even getting into the whole thing with her and Gal Gadot. But I'm not educated enough on that saga to talk about it without sounding like an idiot. Cause I haven't looked into it. I've only caught snippets of it here and there. Anyway, back to marketing. Before the movie came out, there was a lot of talk about how this Snow White was going to be progressive. It was going to be a strong female lead, that she didn't need no man to come save her. And the story was going to be focusing on her and how she was a leader.
Reality is that the cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power and what a woman is fit for in the world. And so when we came to reimagining the actual role of Snow White, it became about the fairest of them all, meaning who is the most just.
I have no problem with that as a concept. When it becomes a problem is when there's an entire song making fun of the idea of princesses who need to be rescued, literally called Princess Problems, just for him to end up needing to save her anyway. Because see, that's where I have the fucking problem. You don't get to make fun of me for liking my little romantic tropes, even though the prince is still over there in the corner by himself, ignore him. But you don't get to tell me that true love is the climax of the movie when I watch this movie with my own eyes, and I'm pretty sure that they don't even fucking like each other. Don't sell me shit and expect me to say thank you. I have to pay my little hearts before I start getting really pissed off. I don't want to be angry in this movie because that feels ridiculous to be angry over something so silly as Snow White, but it genuinely, the reasons behind why I'm angry make me angry.
So in editing this video and in gathering clips for interviews and things, I started to get anxious about my critiques on Rachel. I started to get anxious, like, was I just experiencing internalized misogyny? Why do her comments bother me so much when Robert Pattinson, for instance, when he talks shit on Twilight, we find it very charming, very endearing. I find it funny what was happening there. And I think I finally put it into words, especially since watching back these interviews, there are moments where I find her very charming. I think she's very funny. Look at her do this cute little dance. Like, charming. But I think what it comes down to is, again, the importance of language. I think it just comes down to how she talks about the original Snow White versus her Snow, and how she talks about the original Snow White as if it was something that needed to be fixed and not updated. And those are two different things. And this like faux feminist idea, women have to be strong, women have to be leaders, women have to be etc. etc. And the tone and the language that's used talking about the original Snow White, that because she wasn't those things, she wasn't a correct woman. And we're fixing that in this update. And that's not how feminism works. It's a faux performative version of feminism, because feminism is identified by choice, a woman's choice to do whatever she wants. And in having that attitude, she's saying that women like Snow White, who want to fall in love, who want to be homemakers, who want to be more traditional family women, who want to be homemakers, that they're being women wrong. And that's not the case. And I want to hope that that comes from a place of ignorance and not from a place of malice. I'm getting so caught up in the creation of Snow White that she was just really excited to show their version, and a sense of pride that went a little too far. That's what I hoped to, because like we've experienced, are there things wrong with the original Snow White? Yes, but is any of it how Snow White is a woman? No. And the marketing for this movie almost talks about how Snow White's lack of wanting to be a strong leader is her fault. And therein lies the issue. It's talking shit and putting down your source material to say we fixed it and we did it better, instead of we saw the story that had a lot of good in it and we wanted to update it because there were things that we don't agree with anymore. Two different mentalities around how you approach a story. So that's been weighing on me for about 3 days now. I'll be completely honest. I thought about this a lot. Like, why does this bother me? This is why. Again, it's just food for thought, and another showcase of the importance of language and how we talk about things and why we talk about things and how things come off of communication. And while words have similar meanings, they are not perfectly interchangeable. And so the words you pick matter, and the words you say matter. That being said, I also disagree with how much hate she's gotten for this movie, even if I don't like how she handled the press, or even if I don't like how she talks about the story or the character. I don't think that she deserves to get as much hate. And if you're thinking about using this video to spread more hate, no, that's not appropriate. Don't do that. That's dumb. And that is the word I'm choosing intentionally. That's dumb. Because when you do hear her talk about the project, she does seem to be very proud and very attached to the project. And so to be getting so much hate on something that she seems, again, we don't know her. It's very careful. But she seems to be very attached to. And yeah, it just sucks.
I got really emotional hearing everybody's reactions to it, which was really, really incredible. And so I feel very blessed to be a part of something that seems to be very important to a lot of people, including myself. But I saw the logo and I went, that's my name, Snow White's up there. And I cried my eyes out. And I saw myself on screen and I just wanted to throw up. I was so happy about it. And it was the most incredible experience. And the fan reaction was insane.
And it sucks that she's a Disney fan and she got to be a Disney princess. And it got her a lot of hate. And that sucks. I can't begin to imagine how sucky that must feel. And we don't know her at all or her intentions. She could have misspoke. She could have been ignorant. We don't know. So I stand by my critiques, but I refuse to cut out nuance for the sake of brevity. And yeah, after Rachel Ziegler, her next project is taking her to the West End, and I hope no one is mean to her at Stage Door if she just chooses to do Stage Door. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Boo, jump scare. Hi, Persie from later on in the video. I just want to jump in here and call out something that I forgot to mention when first recording this, and that was the whole Peter Dinklage situation. Peter Dinklage is an actor with dwarfism who very famous for his role as Tyrion Lannister? Yeah, incredibly famous actor. And he spoke out against Disney when Disney announced that they were going to do Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs because he thought it was incredibly reductive if Disney casted actors with dwarfism in those roles and really confining them in typecasting. And that's an incredibly valid statement to say. I want to put that out there. It is his right to say that and to call that out when something problematic like that happens as an actor with dwarfism, first-hand experience. And then it's Disney's job to kind of take that information and take into account when making this movie and kind of addressing it. But because Disney's allergic to making anything that requires any semblance of backbone behind it or any sense of choice, they picked the worst route and made the CGI monstrosities that haunt me to this day. I hate them so much. I hate the dwarves. They're so dead behind the eyes. And I wanted to call that out because that's why Disney went with the CGI dwarves. I don't understand why they didn't still cast real humans with dwarfism and just expand the characters. That's kind of the obvious choice in my opinion. If you hear, hey, it's really reductive for people with dwarfism to be cast as dwarves, as like these caricatures of people, okay, then make them actual people. Make them matter. Make them have characteristics. Make the nicknames be nicknames and give them real names. You know what I mean? Like, there's a million things they could have done, and they always pick the worst option. But I just wanted to put that in here because I don't think I mentioned it anywhere. So, okay. And for the third time, let's start at the beginning. And so this movie opens up with a remake of the original storybook that says Snow White, with a bunch of little critters running around on it. It's very cute. And I will say, at least the animals look more cute and cartoony and less realistic, which I personally prefer this style over the hyper-realistic animals that they've been doing. There's a little more cutesy. But we open with opening narration that I thought was Josh Gad, but is actually someone named Andrew Barth Feldman. No idea who that is, but he's the narrator. Put a pin in it. It comes up later and I have a lot of thoughts about it. So, how do they get around the skin is white as snow, lips as red as blood, hair as dark as ebony thing? They just ignored it. Doesn't exist in this film at all, which I don't like. Just actively ignoring your source material instead of trying to change it to stay in the heart of the story. Okay, fine, whatever. But instead Snow White gets her name because she was born in a snowstorm, which I did like. I thought it was just a fun new way for her to get her name, and it comes up a few times. She has a line in a song that says, "My father once told me I braved a snowstorm. I wonder if that girl is still inside me." And that idea thematically is fun. But to separate yourself so fully from a famous line from the original instead of getting creative with it, it feels like you want to separate yourself from the work entirely. Like, oh, if we ignore the original, then we can do anything we want and make it our own. To which then I ask, why remake Snow White at all? And in my opinion, a great example of this being done is Winter from the Lunar Chronicles. The Lunar Chronicles, it's a book series, and they do a lot of retelling. But their version of Snow White is named Winter. I love the name Winter. And she's a beautiful black girl who has a huge scar running down her face because She was too beautiful. And her version of the fair as snow is something like Heart as Pure as Snow. I didn't reread the book for this video because it would require 4 books worth of context, and this video is long enough already. If you want to talk about it, I can make a video about that series. Gladly. I would gladly make a video about that series. I love that series. But anyway, I think that's a great example of twisting the original work on its head, but keeping the heart of the story. Because again, the point of Snow White is that she's beautiful because she is kind. And the skin as white as snow comes from because that's what people thought was beautiful when it was written. And if you think it's important for any other reason, talk to the fucking wall. One more quote on the invisible hearts, and then you'll be able to see what I'm doing. We have this whole opening number about how her parents want to raise Snow White to be fair and just leader. Which by itself, fun expansion on the idea of fair some and all. But you see where it becomes a problem is where we have 3 songs that need to talk about what it means to be fair. Which is Good Things Grow, All Is Fair, and Princess Problems. All the while trying to distance themselves from the phrase fairest of them all as much as possible. They say it the least amount of times feasibly possible. Like they're trying to distance themselves from the idea of beauty at every single turn. We start with the song Good Things Grow, which is Snow White's parents talking about how they want her to be a good leader and how to plant the seeds for a successful kingdom for the free and the fair. And they talk about how they want Snow White to be a fair and true leader. And they say this as if she is doing something momentous. Like, we get a dramatic music cue and everything as she gives another girl a flower crown that she was wearing. How gracious. And I mention this because the flower crown comes up later. But it felt bad watching it. It did not feel good. Because you're trying to tell me that this is a momentous moment. That this friendly child made a friend her own age. Nice. Like why did we need a freaking swell of music? Like, what is happening? And let it be known, the songs in this movie suck. They suck ass. And not only do they suck, but it feels like you're watching a movie the entire time. Like, my partner leaned over to me at one point and he went, "Why are they all cheating out?" To which I was very proud that he knew that term. But it's true. The entire time, it's like they're performing for the audience. Which is true, because you are, but you never get lost in the movie. It feels like you're watching a filmed Broadway show, but it's a Nepo baby's first show ever. And then also somehow the lighting person lost half of their equipment on the way over to the gig. Like, there's no mood lighting at all. It's all just incredibly brightly lit all the time. And that combo makes it this multi-million-dollar movie feel incredibly cheap. But at least we have the wishing well. The family is singing over the well. The song still hasn't stopped. The family, they're singing over the well, and the mom dies, and so her reflection disappears from the well, and she's never important again. The well got her. And then immediately after this, the king remarries. And when I say immediately, I mean immediately, because Snow White doesn't age. Which doesn't necessarily mean anything in movie world. But I challenge you this. In the time it takes for the queen to die, the king to re-fall in love, remarry, the king get killed, warring with the southern kingdom, turn Snow White into a slave, and run the kingdom into the ground, the flower crown is still fresh. It's still bright yellow. So all of this happened in, the course of a week? And we know it's real flowers, 1, because they wouldn't have fake flowers in, like, a semi-fantasy town, but 2, the flower crown shows up again at the end of the movie, and it's wilted. It's like preserved dried flowers. So it's real flowers. And it wouldn't matter if they didn't play this huge mystical music cue when Snow White gives the flower crown to the other child. It's so weird. It's so weird. It's so weird. It draws attention to the weirdest things using movie language. There are many a time where I have to go and take a break because I'm in so much pain from sitting up, and I forget what I was doing. And this was one of those times. Where's my brush? I found it. Okay. We're talking about the Evil Queen. Yeah? No, we're talking about them using bad movie language. Correct. Okay. But now we're at the Evil Queen. So the Evil Queen is now in charge, and she looks good. I know I started off this section of the video with, like, a lot of energy, a lot of, like, man, I hated everything they did. That's not true. And this is probably the best example of that. The kingdom has wealth because of the mines underneath, and that's what the dwarves are mining, are the gems. And I think that's really cool. I think it's a really cool, like, expansion. And when the Evil Queen comes into power, her whole aesthetic is gem inspired. Like, she clinks and clanks every time she moves. And it's nice. It's good. Ah, Seamus has moved. Hold on. No, I love that aesthetic choice, that, like, when she comes to power, she goes mad with power, and she loves the crystals, and she, like, she sounds like she's covered in diamonds every time she moves, and I think that's fun. I love that. But we've learned the evil queen is obsessed with power, as they always are, and she is forced, I'm mixing my paint, that's why I'm looking down, but she has forced farmers to become soldiers and to join her army, basically, so they have a stronger military force. And then she has hoarding all of the kingdom's wealth for herself. All of the gems, all of the food, all of everything is being forced for her. How does she have food when all of the farmers were turned into soldiers? We won't talk about it. I don't need... Maybe I do. No. Personally, I want a Snow White movie where, like, the queen is still objectively evil. Still awful. Still tries to kill a child. But she can't help but make the kingdom prosper. You know what I mean? Like, she's evil and obsessed with youth and obsessed with beauty and power, but she uses that power to her advantage. I guess the best way to put it is, personally, I want a Snow White that's a political thriller. That's not what we're writing today because I can't write political thrillers, but if you know of one, let me know. Thank you. Anyway, she turns Snow White into a slave because she's threatened by her. I didn't write down if she's threatened by beauty or her ability to rise to power. I would assume it's the latter, since this movie is so allergic to mentioning anything about beauty in the slightest. But unclear, I did not write it down. And honestly, if they hadn't been allergic to it, then maybe we could blame this fugly-ass Bob on the evil queen being worried that Snow White will outshine her. I hate her hair so much. But we'll talk about that when we get to the magical forest, don't you worry. Just give her curly hair. Like, just let her have curly hair and have cute, like, we've all seen Snow White with her cute little foops and, like, curls and everything. Like, why does she look... It's fine. And I want to make it very clear, I'm not digging Rachel Ziegler. I think she herself is a beautiful woman. I think she is styled completely incorrectly for Snow White, for Rachel Ziegler, for ingenue in general. Just saying. But Snow White is doing chores. She's once again mopping concrete. And she goes into the kitchen and she finds knockoff Flynn Rider stealing small handfuls of potatoes. And the two argue, and they get into an argument about what it means to be fair. Who would have guessed? And they argue, like, is it fair that he's reduced to stealing because the queen is starving people? And it's through this interaction that we learned that the townspeople have all but forgotten Snow White. It's mentioned in the narration as well, but here we're shown, and I think it's more effective when you show it, obviously, but here we're shown that she mentions the princess, and he's like, what are you talking about? She's not real. She might be dead. We don't know anything about her. He's just shocked to hear her name, and I liked that. And it's because she hasn't been seen in years, so it makes sense. And this interaction does spur Snow White on to try to talk to the queen about maybe being more fair, and maybe sharing some of their piles of food with the townspeople. Again, she confronts her at dinner where there are active piles of food, and the queen is like, how dare you? I need all of this. Because no one else is sitting with her. She's like, this is all for me. I'm hungry. Thank you. She's not that cartoonishly villainous, but kind of. And then, like, Snow White almost could have made, I'm still mixing this paint. Snow White almost could have made maybe a difference with the queen until she mentions her parents. And Snow White brings up that her and her parents used to bake a bunch of apple pies for the townspeople, and they would bring it down to the village, and they'd all eat apple pies together. A sweet notion, the way it's written is kind of silly, but that's neither here nor there. And not only that, but honestly, even the squirrel in the window is looking at Snow White like, you're dumb. Why would you? No, don't say that to her. And sure enough, that pisses off the queen. And not only is it, like, dumb to ask such a selfish woman to share, but also this woman hates your parents. And you. She made you a slave for fun. You needed a PowerPoint to approach this? You didn't even bring in a TV. Come on. But this does count as standing up for the little guy. So good job. I do love that. We do love to see it. And I will say, I do love when someone fails. I do love when someone fails in a... Is that the right color? I'm gonna drop a yellow. I do love when someone fails in a story. I think it is needed for character growth. I think it's important to see our main heroes fuck up the first time, essentially. But even this, it was a little hard to watch. And I think it's just the writing, honestly. Snow White also wears a necklace from her father. Again, mother, not relevant, but something from her father that's engraved with the words fearless, fair, brave, and true. which just her wearing it pisses the queen off. I would have hidden it in my shirt to go ask her something, but that's fine. But disconsolate rider gets caught, and because the evil queen was already pissed at Snow White, the punishment is probably a little bit more severe than it would have been. And Snow White's like actively trying to stick up for him in the moment. It doesn't go well, and so the evil queen has the guards strip him down to his shirt and pants, like get rid of his jacket and his shoes and his socks, and tie him to the front gate. So that way he might freeze to death overnight, which is harsh. And so this rightfully scandalizes Snow White, and she blurts out that her father always said the punishment should not exceed the crime. That's the biggest Chekhov's gun I think I've seen in a long while. So where are we putting the pin? In it, correct. We'll visit that later. But our girlie has her I Want song, which I don't hate. No, I do hate it. I like the idea behind it. This movie is another version of, I like some of the ideas, but a lot of it pisses me off. But she has her I Want song in front of the wishing well. It's called Waiting on a Wish. And she's basically talking about how she's been wishing and waiting for her dreams to come true, and that she's been waiting too long, and is she going to be stuck in the perpetual waiting? Will she ever be able to grow into the girl that her dad wanted her to be? Again, that line I said at the beginning about she once braved a winter storm, is that girl still inside her? That one. Again, mom, not important. Not relevant at all. And she's wondering, has her kingdom lost what it means to be fair? And is she going down that same road? Is she going to bow her head, or is she going to be strong? We are already on song 2.5, and I'm really sick and tired of being told what it means to be fair and how important it is to be fair. Especially something about the word fair feels childish, because fair means exactly even, right? Versus things that are equal, things that are just. Things that are morally equal are not always one-to-one, and fair implies a one-to-one status, right? And this is going to be a part of the big discussion for the rest of the video, so get your thoughts in order about that. Also, another pin. The final line of the song, she sings about wanting to be someone brave, not wanting to be someone who needs to be saved. Okay, that's fine, I guess. I did put in my notes how refreshing it is to have Rachel as the lead, and I stand by that. I know I've mentioned it before, but I do genuinely think that she's just so talented, and having her belt out these big, beautiful notes is just so, it's so crisp. Apple crisp. Like, it's good. It's that good. And I will say there are moments where I completely understand and I see why she was cast. And I will call them out as they come, because they are few and far between, but this is one of them. Like, hearing her have this big opening number, I'm like, music to my ears. It's so good. And I want to like the music. I love Broadway. I'm a theater kid. Like, I don't know. They're just not written well, and that makes me sad. She has such a wonderful voice, but fuck, I still don't like her in this role. And that makes me sad. That pisses me off. Anyway, she unties our boy, and she sends him off with a piece of bread, which I will say, I do like this. I like the agency that she gets in letting him go. I like that she gives him bread, and that's all that she could steal. You know what I mean? I really like that moment. You know how our Queenie has a magic mirror with a slave in it? The CGI one is awful. And I never saw Wish, but I know he's supposed to be, like, the big bad from Wish. I don't know if it's the same voice actor. That would be smart. I can look that right now. I have technology. He's voiced by Chris Pine. Aurora Magique is voiced by Patrick Page. So completely different guy. That could have been cool. Anyway, not relevant. I just wanted to point out that he looks awful. He just looks awful. You know what it looks like? It looks like from Shrek. The magic mirror in Shrek. It looks like they're making fun of the magic mirror in Shrek, who's making fun of the original magic mirror. Like, it looks bad. It's just so stiff. I don't know. I don't know if they wanted it, like, to be easily replicatable on merch or easily replicatable in the park or what. But she chunky. He a chunky boy. I also want to point out, why did the narrator feel the need to point out that our evil queen can only ask the magic mirror one question? That's not important to the story. First off, it's not important. It's not an important detail. If anything, it makes the story so much worse. She has this whole ass room, this whole ass dramatic entrance, a mirror the size of her, that, yes, it works as a mirror, so sure, she can have it in her vanity, I guess, but she has it in a whole separate area. Looks like next to the throne room. And she can only ask it this one question forever? Just say she has a magic mirror. Like, that's it. Like, we don't need all this extra level of detail. Why did you feel this was important enough to call out? And, like, it's one of those things. On its own, it's not that big a deal. But because this movie has a bad habit of explaining things that don't need to be explained and changing things that don't need to be changed, but refusing to change the things that could have and should have been updated. Like, it's just weird. Like, for instance, her mom didn't need to be there. Doesn't have any lines outside of the song. Dies middle of the song. Not relevant at all. So the mirror only ever being used for one question. Not that she only asked it one question. That she can only ask it one question. Forever is insane. Also, how the dwarves find gems. That wasn't important to describe, but they do. In detail, we'll get there. Don't worry. Anyway, Queenie asks her way too intense huntsman to take Snow White to the apple orchard to pick apples, and for him to cut out his heart. And I kid you not, a kid in the row in front of me gasped out loud, and that's very sweet. That was my favorite moment of the movie, actually. It was very cute. It's just, I had that same experience when I went to go see Hocus Pocus. Last year, Webb and I went to go see a special viewing of Hocus Pocus at that same theater, actually. We ended up having to go at, like, a really weird time after work, and so it was a very empty theater, except for, like, this one, us, and a parent with her 3 kids or something, and the kids had never seen it, and so they were gasping and laughing at all the right points. It was very sweet. I love children. They're so sweet. Anyway, back to the Huntsman and killing a child, but speaking of children, but he, again, like all huntsmen, he falls into the folly of making this so hard on himself. Like, he doesn't even wait for her back to be turned. He just, like, backs her into a corner with a knife, like, ah. And she's like, why? Which is so fair. She has all of her undivided attention on him, and then he's like, Like, we have enough time for her to have a dramatic zoom, watery eyes, and a quivering lip. And this is the other moment, by the way, where I was like, oh, I get it. You got that good, like, baby face. You know what I mean? She looked very vulnerable in that moment, I guess. Played it really well. But unfortunately, this is also one of the scenes where you can clearly see that it's on a soundstage. Like, the background looks like it's a painted flat. But not in the fun way that they did in, like, WandaVision. More in I think I'm supposed to be ignoring that way? Anyway, he can't do it, and he tells her to run, again, with way too much enthusiasm. The way that this dude stands looks like, Mom, I just flew up. Like, very, all the time. But she takes off running, she goes into her scary forest. She loses her bow, which is a small detail that made me sad. I wish that she kept it. It's not important at all. It's not important to the story, it's not important to my review. I'm just pointing it out. And as for scary forests go, it's fine. It looks fine. Lots of CGI, but that was, like, expected. Like, that's not shocking to me. It's really whatever, because we got a lot of bigger problems to talk about. Kind of like the fact that this forest layout doesn't make any sense. She's running through the forest. She gets backed into a corner by the scary magic trees, and then she's sitting there with enough time for the trees to kind of loom over her, and then the floor drops out from under her, and then she drops into a body of dark water, which she then has to crawl out to, which she crawls out into, like, a grove where she meets her animal friends, right? We got double-decker forest now. Okay, whatever. And maybe she was supposed to have, like, slid down something, but I don't think they show us sliding down. I think we just see her fall directly into water. Either we got double-decker evil forest or a bad editing job. That's all I gotta say. And, yeah, no, so she crawls herself out of the water. The deer comes out, and she gives the deer bread, and I really like that. I like that that was, like, her first inclination, that she saw something that was scared of her, and was like, wait, no, please don't be scared, it's okay. I'm also scared, you know? And, like, the design of the deer is also really cute. It's very sweet. Again, I like the CGI animals in this movie. I think they look better. I think they work better in a movie like this over the hyper-real CGI animals. And I wanted to call it out because I'm specifically still going out of my way to find things that I love. Even here. Even now. You know? But you know what I don't love? Her fucking dress. And I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's a nice cold take. Because why is it like that? Why is it fluorescent? Like, it's this color. Like, this is actually pretty movie accurate to the color of her dress. And it never is not super fluorescent, which is just, I don't know. It doesn't work. And I don't know if it's because I saw that photo of her behind the scenes, you know, she's walking to set and she has the clips in her hair or what, but I could never not see her in a costume, the same way that I could never not see this being on a soundstage when it was, you know what I mean? The quality between it being on a soundstage and it being in the forest, because there's a moment where she's in an actual forest, or at least it looks like an actual forest, the difference is really stark. And I don't know if it was intentional. If it was, I don't know why it would be like a stylistic choice to make it feel like you're watching a Broadway show, because the music is so Broadway. I like the style, because I love Broadway. It's just the lyrics that I have problems with, you know what I mean? Which is the case for most. It's the most case for most. And so, like, the use of the music and then it feeling like it's on a soundstage just feels weird. Because I don't know why. But yeah, her hair is never out of place. Even now, she falls into the sting of water. She's getting out, she has to crawl out, move her hair out of her face. She's gone into water. That shit ain't styled anymore, you know what I mean? Once it's dry, it's perfectly styled again. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, it just... And then the tulle on her dress is so shiny. Like, why is it like that? Ah! Oh, well, she's the brightest part of a dark forest. She's the light in a dark story. Shut up. That's really not. That's a cop-out, and you know it. Because her being bright doesn't negate all the other problems I have with it. Let's be so for real. It just looks bad. And again, Rachel Ziegler's not an unattractive person. She's not. I think she's a beautiful woman. I've seen her in many other things. I'm like, oh, she's really pretty. In I never watched West Side Story, but I've seen clips of West Side Story, and she looks great there. Much more ingenue than here. Here, I don't know. The hair with her strong jaw and her really long, pretty neck, it's so angular, and they didn't try to soften her up at all. They played into the angular features, which is just such a weird choice for them to play such a soft character. I don't know. I have so many thoughts and concerns. And I wish that they had taken this moment where she falls into the water and she comes back out, and she has a really cute little perky bob. Her hair dries naturally, like a little more curly. Okay, then we understand that her having that hairstyle and looking like that is because the Evil Queen wanted her to look like that. And her natural features, and her natural hair, and her natural look suits her much more. That could have been really interesting. Going from really structured to really organic and soft, especially since she comes from this kingdom that is gem-inspired, so really, really structured, really, really crystalline, then going into the forest and finding herself and growing into the leader she wants to be. Why not have her change and grow and look different? And maybe be a little more organic. And have a mixture of... Oh my god. We know how I feel about aesthetics. Anyway, and I know it feels like I've been talking about this movie forever, and it's because I've been talking about Snow White forever, but this movie specifically, it's moving at breakneck speeds. It feels like we're trying to speed run the original movie of Snow White so we can get to the story that we want to tell. The new Snow White. And again, I have to ask, why did you want to make a Snow White? Why? Because now she's found the cottage, the animals will help her find the cottage, and this time it's clean, which is totally fine. But it's a clean cottage, and she still lays down to go to sleep. I'm not super sure why, she just kind of does. At least in the original story, it's because she's been running over 7 hills, and then in the new story, it's because she was running and cleaning, so she ran less, but then cleaned more all day. So, like, this one just feels like a bed. It just felt really weird. But while she's sleeping, we go and we meet the dwarves, and they have their hi-ho number, which I like that they kept the hi-ho, and I like that they expanded on it. I think it's fun. They make it longer, they make it more of a spectacle, which I also think is kind of fun. We learn that they have the power for their hands to glow, and when they touch the rocks, the gem in the rocks go bright, like they turn on, like LEDs. So, interesting. I don't think that was a detail that needed to be clarified. Again, like how the Evil Queen's magic mirror can only ask one question for the rest of forever. Weird to have to clarify this when no one was asking, but okay. This song is also like an introduction where we learn their names, because Disney thinks we're too stupid to remember a name based off their one personality trait, I guess. I'm not sure. I wrote that with like a lot of vengeance in my heart. I feel less passionately about it now. But that also might be because I'm starting to wane and get tired. But I just poured out a bunch of paint, so I have to keep painting. But whatever, it's fine. They go and they meet Snow, and they do still think she's a monster, and they do reenact that scene that's from the original movie. Pretty close, which I think is fun. I love when they do moments like that. If the entire movie is different, to have single scenes that are recreations from the original, I think is actually very clever and very sweet, very fun. So we have one of those moments here, and so they meet Snow White, learn that she's a princess, that she's not a monster, and they introduce themselves to her in alphabetical order, which is kind of weird, just so then they can do, and then in reverse order, it would be, and then Doc goes to say it, all their names in reverse order, and he messes up, and Snow White jumps in and corrects him. Oh, she says all 7 names. And she does it perfectly, and they're just in awe about this, which is fair, like, that is actually quite impressive. And she says her mother always said how important it was to remember a name. We do not see her mother say this, so I'm not convinced that she had lines. And this moment is also a shortcut to the moment that I called out in the original OG Snow White movie, where she has a moment with each dwarf and is very disarming and is very charming and gets to know them one by one. Here she addresses them all as one, and I don't like it. I get we can cut it for time, for pacing, what have you. I don't like it. I don't, and I'll get into why I don't like it in a second. But I will say this is one of 2 moments that got a good chuckle out of me, which Grumpy is being snarky about their names, which tracks. That do be Grumpy. And he says, "You're called Happy because you're happy. And I'm called Grumpy because I'm misunderstood." And it got me. It just did. I don't know why. It's not even that funny of a joke, but it got a chuckle out of me. Personally, I got a problem with the dwarves. I don't like them. 1, they're dead behind the eyes and Dopey looks like he should be on the Polar Express. 2, they go out of their way to point out that they're 250 years old. And 3, at one point, as they're going home, we hear one of them say, "I can't wait to floss," on the walk home. This is overcompensation to the extreme, dude. With the glowing hands and the 250 years old and the CGI dead eyes, it just feels like they're trying to separate these dwarves from humankind as much as possible. So now we're avoiding the phrase "the fairest of them all" with a 10-foot pole, and now we're avoiding the original dwarves with a 10-foot pole. And I once again ask, why did you want to remake Snow White? Did you think it was just going to be easier than the other ones? Like, do you think people would care less because people care less about Snow White? I don't. And I didn't even give a shit about her before now, but now I do. You called me out of the woodwork. Well, they didn't want to say the fairest of them all to feed into toxic beauty standards. That's the entire point of Snow White. That beauty is more than skin deep. That if you're not beautiful on the inside, you're not beautiful on the outside. That's the entire point. Well, they didn't want the dwarves to come off as insensitive to little people. The dwarves are the best part about the original movie. They're the ones who treat her with kindness. They're the ones that take her in at her time of need. They're the ones who defend her, who take care of her, who care about her. They're the only ones who care about her in the original movie. Like, they are the good guys. And is it fucked that in the original fairy tale that they probably were dwarves because that's what they called little people, and probably to be like, oh, you know the ugly weirdos in the forest? Well, they're actually the good guys. And you know the pretty queen? She's actually the bad guy. Rad, dude. Like, probably, yeah, but is that not worth saying to some degree? Not the ugly weirdos part, you know what I mean? That those who might be perceived as different can be treated worse based on appearances, but that's not a reflection of their character. Is that not worth saying to some degree? You know? And with the flossing thing, it just felt a little cringe because in the original movie, they were, like, dirty to the extreme. So now they're like, well, we don't want to be like them, so we're going to be clean to the extreme. They love to floss. Man, they can't wait to wash their hands. They can't wait to mop the floor. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it felt like. And so it's like, oh, again, it by itself would have been a funny joke. Might have gotten a chuckle out of me. Again, it wouldn't have gotten a chuckle out of anyone else, but it would have got a chuckle out of me. But it's just that partnered with everything else. Where it's like, oh, well, that's not as funny anymore. Now it just feels weird. Now you're calling out, look at how different we are than the original dwarves. We're the good ones. What? Also, why do they hate each other? Oh my god, like, they're mean to one another. And I think it's supposed to be that because they've been stuck together for 250 years, that, like, they're starting to get on each other's nerves and stepping on each other's toes, you know what I mean? Family gets on each other's nerves. I get that. But if anything, I think it's worse that the group of people that is perceived as different is also the group that is considered less civilized than the rest of people because they need someone to wrangle them and teach them how to be civilized and how to work together. Because do you remember at the beginning of the video where I said we should put a pin in the lyrics for Whistle While You Work? Yeah, time to take that pin out. But the original lyrics are, now you wash the dishes to the squirrels and chipmunks, and you tidy the room to the bunnies, you clean the fireplace to the squirrels and chipmunks again, and I'll use the broom to Snow White. In the remake, it goes, now you wash the dishes, you tidy the room, you clean the fireplace, and he'll use the broom. It's a tiny change. A single lyric. Not a big deal, right? Wrong. Because in the original Snow White, she is cleaning the cottage as a peace offering to the people who lived there because she broke in when no one was home. And she saw that there were dishes that needed to be done, and she's like, well, if I do it, maybe they'll be nice to me if I'm nice to them first. Which, can we talk about how she feels the need to earn love? Maybe, but we're not here for that right now. Is it weird? Yes. Is it overstepping? Also yes. But in all honesty, it's not that bad. But, do you remember how I said the dwarves don't like each other? Yeah, they get into a fight and they trash the cottage. They break the table, they break the chandelier, it's a whole thing. It's gross. And then, they bully Dopey. They bully him so bad he has to go sit outside and be sad by himself. And that made me sad, even though he looked like an alien. And so Snow White has to go outside and comfort him. And when she learns that he doesn't speak, she teaches him how to whistle. Because her father taught her, whistling is how your heart speaks. And that leads into the song, Whistle While You Work. She goes inside, she wrangles all the dwarves who are still being mean to one another. And this is supposed to be her showing her natural inclination to be a leader. To rally people together. She knows how to mediate, how to get things done. But it feels weirdly condescending that she has come into these strangers' house and just starts telling them how to take care of themselves and what to do. And because she doesn't help clean, she just points and you'll do this and you'll do that and he'll do this and this is how you do that. And is that probably because the dwarves are CGI and they couldn't have them interacting because the illusion wouldn't work? Sure, absolutely. But that doesn't change my experience as a viewer, and that doesn't make it feel any less condescending. Because it does. It won't take long when there's a song to help you set the pace. And as you sweep the floor, what used to be a bore will feel just like a game. Shut the fuck up, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. I don't know, I think it's the constant use of the word you do this, you do that. It just makes me feel a little bristly, and keep in mind the dwarves are still fighting the entire song. Until the line, this grimy group became a troop that feels like family. What used to be a mess that lived at this address is now clean as a whistle just from whistling sounds of happiness. I think I fucked that up, but I'm not retaking that. It's just saying, I know you guys have lived together for 250 years, but now, because of me, now it feels like a family. You're welcome. And then she leaves! And this is the point where I made a note, where it's like, damn, we are speedrunning Snow White to get to the real Snow White, the one Disney wants to show us. Because she leaves with knockoff villain Ryder, we learn his name is William. Oh, no it's not, it's Jonathan. Oh, I don't know how I did that. Pain and fatigue is fucking sucks. But yeah, she runs off with Jonathan, and now this is when we are in a real forest, and you can tell the difference between the soundstage and the live forest. Because the live forest, there's depth, and it feels like they're moving through the space, versus in the soundstage, it feels like, you know how they filmed The Mandalorian? How it's like this big round thing, and the actors are like in the middle, and everything back here is lit up? That's what it feels like all the time. Except for when they're in like the real forest. But everything before that, like, that's what it feels like. It feels like there is no actual depth. Like, you can see the back wall. It's weird. It's really weird feeling. You would never forget you're watching a movie. But this is where we get the song Princess Problems. My least favorite song. It literally has the lyric, princesses are always waiting for a prince to show up or a king, to which I wrote, shut the fuck up. Again, it feels like we're making fun of the character of Snow White, but while also asking you to spend money on the character of Snow White. And also, it's weird because he has this whole song about what it means to have princess problems, and how, oh, well, you probably haven't had to work a day in your life, like, you don't know what it's like to be poor, like, I bet it makes you uncomfortable once you realize how poor we are, and the shit we go through. You saw her working in the castle. You saw her in rags. Like, yes, you know that she's the princess, but you also know that she's not a princess. Also, she stood up for you. Shut up. Oh my god. Waking up to the real world is bringing you down. Well, that sounds an awful lot like princess problems. Finally learning that line's not fair. Seems to me like you got some princess problems. Ain't it crummy when folks won't share? Shut the fuck up. Every single chance you have met her, she has literally gone out of her way to share with you, and she has stuck up for you, and she's the reason you're not dead. Get out of here with, oh, you got some princess problems. Shut up. Asshole. Jesus Christ. And now, you're not making fun of the character of Snow White to me. You're making the fun of the character of Snow White to Snow White. What is happening here? And you're trying to tell me that this is when their crush starts to kick in? Oh my god. You want to talk about bad role models for children when it comes to romance? I think this is probably one of the best examples of bad romance role models to show children. Because he's just making fun of her the entire time, and it's supposed to be charming. What? Oh my god. Anyway, that's Jonathan and his 7 misfit criminals, knockoff fucking merry men. We also only learned 2 of their names. One of them I forgot to write down. He's the one with the crossbow. And then the other one's named Maple, who the crossbow one has a crush on, I think. But Maple is a pretty black girl, doesn't get lines. And I just like the name Maple, which is why I remembered it. But there is like a weird B plot of, there are criminals in the forest, our 7 guys, and they are fighting like the queen's tyranny in the king's name. And so Snow White, for like part of the movie, thinks that her dad might be alive. Which is kind of interesting, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't go anywhere. Like, her dad's not alive. And the people in the forest are just our seven misfits, who are actors, by the way. They're thespians that got kicked out of the village because people got annoyed with them. So that's it's an interesting thing that isn't utilized enough, and I have my theories as to why. I'm 90% sure this movie was supposed to have a completely different plot, because originally the 7 dwarves weren't supposed to be in it, and I think it was only supposed to be the 7 misfits, and they were going to remake the idea of Snow White, which, again, could have been interesting if they stuck to their guns, but they didn't, and so now we have two mismatched hodgepodge versions of Snow White where neither of them do what either of them could have or should have done, which is, it's just weird. It's weird. But anyway, back to the movie. 14 palace guards come and kidnap Snow White, and Jonathan tells her to run, and they'll take care of it. To which I say, you say that with way too much confidence, considering none of you have weapons, and they're all fully armed palace guards, and it's 2-1. What are you talking about? What is going on? What is going on? But when she doesn't run, he asks her, like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm making the fight fair. There's one of you. You don't have a plan. Like, she makes a plan eventually. That's actually quite clever. But you don't have a plan yet. How are you helping make this fair? You're not. But she does make a plan eventually. And the plan is actually really quite clever. I really like it. For the character Snow White, she asks the birds to help, and then from one of their wagons, I don't know which one, she gets a jacket and a shirt that kind of match hers, which honestly look better than the costume she was wearing, but they get that, she puts it on the birds, and they make like a ghost Snow White, and they trick the guards away. You know what I mean? It's very cute, it's very clever, I really like it for the character. But then when they reunite, and Jonathan says, you came back, I told you, I fight fair. You continue to impress me. Shut up! What makes you think that she wants to impress you? God, you've done nothing but be mean to her, and all she's done is be nice to you. Jesus! But no, it's fine, because he takes a non-lethal arrow in the chest for her. If you're gonna try to make me like you, at least make it lethal. Jesus. But this is how we get back to the dwarves. So she has to bring him to Doc, and this almost gave me a laugh. It's not one of the 2 chuckles. She brings him to Doc, and he's like, oh, no, I'm a rock doctor. Rocks. And that was cute. That was very cute. The dwarves promise to try to patch him up the best that they can anyway. And we get this really, like, dramatic moment of Doc coming out of the house. He's, like, wringing his hands. He's really anxious. He takes off his hat, and he's like, oh, well, you see, with Jonathan, Doc's, like, really rambly. You see, with Jonathan, it's just so interesting to see, and he's talking, and then Jonathan walks up behind him, and Doc turns around, he's like, oh, I thought he was dead. And that made me laugh. That one made me laugh. That one got a laugh out of me. But this whole section's, like, really weird tonally, because we go from this, like, he gets shot. Oh, we got a few fun jokes in here. One actually made me laugh. Oh no, he's fine, yay! And then it gets, like, really intense for a moment, which had 2 lines that I actually really liked, which is, she poisoned everyone into thinking it's everyone for themselves, and it requires faith in each other, are 2 lines that are said in this, like, really intense moment. And independently, I think they're great for this story. In this moment, weird, because it's said, and then we have a dance break. I wish I was kidding. We have a dance break. Everyone's, like, drinking and being merry, happy that Jonathan's alive, and then one of the merry men calls Jonathan Snow White's special friend, which I say, ew, don't say that to people. It just feels gross. And in their defense, that phrase has always sounded gross to me. It's not just at this moment in particular. But it just feels in the same vein of people calling baby flirts. You know what I mean? Oh my god, he's such a flirt. He's flirting with me. Mammies too. That's just a personal gripe. But what is this entire video if not a personal gripe? But, you know, we have a dance party with the dwarves, and then during this, while people are dancing, Snow White's looking at Jonathan being nice to the dwarves, and she says to one of the misfit merry men that, oh no, Jonathan only cares for himself. To which the merry man, who I wish I remembered his name, I wish I wrote down, says, yeah, that's why he took that arrow for you. To which I say, did you not hear him sing Princess Problems? And then we get a knockoff Tangled song called A Hand Meets a Hand. It's a pinky purple-tinted, fairy light-infested love song. Which, as a fellow lover girl, I understand. I get it. I'm here. And I think in a vacuum, it's a very sweet song. This idea of, like, maybe I won't have to walk this road alone. This one's off the dome, I'm not looking at the lyrics, but something about, like, a hand finding a hand in the darkness and just knowing someone's there and not having to be alone. Like, it's genuinely very sweet. In a vacuum. In the movie, it kind of comes out of nowhere. And it stops the pacing in its tracks. Wub fell asleep. Other boyfriend fell asleep. All 15 children decide to get up and run back and forth in the theater because they just don't want to pay attention because it got boring. And I'm sitting there dumbfounded, thinking, how did I get here? Have I always been here? When will it end? When can I go home? When does she die? When did she get her heart eaten? And then it's over. And I don't remember why Jonathan goes off venturing alone, but he does, and Snow gives her her heart necklace, the one that her dad gave her that said, fearless, fair, brave, and true. And he's like, no, I can't take this. That means too much. And she goes, I'm not giving it to you. I'm letting you borrow it. So it's a promise that you have to come back. And that was cute. That made my cold, dead heart give a flutter. It did, just a little. Just a moment. But then we're back with the evil queen, and she learns that the huntsman put an apple in the box. To which I asked, did you think she wasn't gonna check, Huntsman? Like, did he put it in, lock it, put it on her desk, and, like, scamper away? Like, did he go home and assume it was just gonna be fine? Also, not to get technical, but technically, a heart is not a solid object. It's kind of wet and flappy. So, you'd put it in the box, you wouldn't feel it kind of bumping around in there, you know what I mean? Like, how did she not feel it? I don't know. She opened it, she pulled the apple out of the box, and I went, oh, so you think I'm stupid. Got it. Understood. Whatever. It's such a small thing, but dear God, this movie's only small things. Because I'm here, I see the apple, and I go, that wouldn't work. But the queen is like, of course I've been fooled, I should have seen this coming. And I'm like, maybe I'm not the stupid one here. Like, but whatever. She goes to her mirror. She asks the one question she can ever ask. And he tells her that Snow White is in the forest. And honestly, in my notes, I think I missed a step here. Because I don't know how Jonathan gets captured by the queen. But he's just captured by the queen. She finds out that Snow White is in the forest. And then she gets noticed that, like, we've caught one. And Jonathan's been captured by the Queen's Guard. Maybe he's just bad at his job. Have we stopped to consider this? Maybe he's dumb. But he's brought up to the Queen, and he's, like, yanked for it. And the little heart locket falls out of his shirt. And if her putting it on him made my dead little romantic heart go, then this was the moment that made it fly away. I don't know what it is about me. I'm a simple woman. But seeing a man wear his girlfriend's jewelry always gets me. It does. And I know I don't believe the rest of the romance, no matter how much they try to sell it to me. I will never believe it. But that moment where the locket fell out, that's good. That's good. That's juicy. But the evil queen locks up Jonathan, tosses her evil cape evilly, and runs down the stairs to her magic lab to make the poison apple. Which is the only part of the movie that has any ambiance whatsoever. I'm like, ooh, okay, lighting cues. Dramatic music. There's a really cool sequence where she turns to the old woman. I'm like, ooh, that's nice. That's good. But then she gets on a boat and rows away, which just brought me back to what is the layout of this forest, because you can't have her on a boat rowing towards us, towards the audience. Castle's here, she's rowing towards us. Have the camera pan out and go this way and have the forest be behind her. What are you talking about? Like, where is she rowing to? And we know that the cottage isn't a waterfront property. Where the fuck is she going? And again, it wouldn't matter if you didn't call attention to it by then zooming into the forest. Because now, I have no idea how she got there. How did she get here? How'd she get here so fast? How did she know where Snow was? Like, now I'm asking these questions that I wouldn't have thought of if we just saw her escape into the night. But whatever, off she goes. She finds Snow White. How? I don't know. I can't tell you. And she uses the locket, which is clever. We like when they trick Snow White, right? They use her good nature against her. But she uses the locket to prove that, oh, I have a message from Jonathan. He's been captured. Something. And so Snow White feels guilty and she has to go save him. And then the evil queen uses the guilt of Snow White's dead father. This is good. This is juicy. She uses the guilt of his dead father to have her go and run to Jonathan. because something about how, I hope you know that there are some of us that haven't given up on your father and his mission, or his idea for the kingdom, something like that. And so that's what convinces her to go. Was she ready to go the second she saw the necklace? Yes, but as a lover girl, I get it. We do silly things sometimes. She knows that she's supposed to stay in the cottage, but she goes, she wants to run to Jonathan, and the evil queen gives her the apple, and she goes, no, a gift for you to sustain you on the road. And again, we get some ambiance, we get some scary, we get some light shifts, we love to see it. The lighting change is fun, the scary, like, panning is fun, the lightning, fun. And Snow White dies. Cool, we love to see it. Why did she bite the apple? I'm choosing to personally believe, so I don't have to think about this any longer, I'm choosing to believe that it's like calling to her to eat it once she has it, you know, like she can't kind of resist it. But because if I think about it too long, I can't help but wonder, why are you eating the thing that's supposed to sustain you on the journey before you even started? You know what I mean? Like, I'm choosing to ignore that. That's not my problem anymore. She's dead. Anyway, cut back to Jonathan. He refuses to give up on Snow White, and so he's trying to pull the chain out of the old wall. And it is like, they do show us that he kind of realizes that it's kind of loose. And he's like, no, I think I can get it out. And so he's like yanking on it over and over and over. And the Huntsman is also the Huntsman's also in the dungeon because, again, the apple. And he's trying to convince Jonathan to just give up. It's not worth fighting, blah, 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 blah. Like, I fought, like, where it landed me. And Jonathan's like, no, she didn't give up on us. I'm not going to give up on her. Again, a good, equal, and opposite exchange. They're taking care of each other. That's how love works. Ooh, we almost got something there. There's almost something juicy. Cute. And then once again, I'm thinking about princess problems. But he is able to break out with the help of the Huntsman. They're able to use the two of them to rip the chain free from the wall. And this is where I realize something very important. Jonathan is in prison in a dirty, gross dungeon, and he's rolling around on the floor. He's fallen over. And he's spotless. And then I realized everyone is spotless. And then once again, I'm wondering, am I in hell? Why is no one getting dirty? And especially Snow White, she is so spotless the entire time, and her hair is always perfectly done. Like, her hair is so in place that I can practically see the clips that were used to keep the waves down in between shots. And could it be because I saw that picture? Yes, but also, it's just pristine. There's not a single hair out of place. At the end of the movie, where she's been running around the forest. Like, she fell through the forest floor into a dirty body of water and had to crawl her way out. Why is her hair perfect? Why is her dress clean? How is she not dirty just from having a full day of, being a working actor? What do you mean? That's a pretty physical job. Especially in a movie like this, where you're kind of, rolling around the floor. You have to get up, you have to run. You're sliding through. I almost said you're sliding into the canal. That was the other movie. But, you're sliding into the forest leaves. How is she pristine? What do you mean? But do you remember the thing that we talked about earlier, how there was all this marketing around how this Snow White was going to be different? She didn't need a prince to come save her, and how stupid it was. The idea of needing a man to come save you really was. Do you want to guess who has to come save her? I'll give you a minute. Jonathan? Oh, yeah, Jonathan! You're right! Yeah, no, he still has to use True Love's kiss to wake her up. And still, personally, don't understand why he's kissed on the lips. Don't understand. A kiss on the head would do just fine. It's the kiss on the lips that I personally have a problem with in every version of Snow White, and I will have that problem until the day I die. Why is it always on the lips? That feels weird. But honestly, that's the least of our problems in this moment. What was the point of all the princess bashing? What was the point of the princess problems? What was the point of, I don't need to be saved? She doesn't need to be saved. A princess always needs someone to come save her. Those are things that are said in the movie, just for her to be saved in the end. And again, purposely drawing attention to details that don't need attention being drawn to them. If it was never mentioned how stupid it is to have a princess be saved, I wouldn't have even noticed. It would have been oh yeah, it's just another one of those movies. You know what I mean? It would have gone by no problem. But the fact that it was called out in the marketing, in the movie, to my face. And for what? What was the point of it? They didn't even try to do anything different at all with it. He still just kisses her. That's it. That's it. The only thing that they tried to do different is they tried to make them fall in love, but in trying to make them fall in love, you convinced me that he doesn't like her. And that he doesn't listen to her when she talks. That's all you've convinced me of. And now you're telling me, no, it's true love. It's true love. If you don't get it, that's your problem. But they're in love, okay? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Our girlie's awake. That's what matters, right? But yeah, our girl is awake. She goes to fight the evil queen. She somehow got her cloak back. And maybe her bow? I don't know. But she has her cloak. And we have a reprise of Waiting on a Wish, and we get to listen to that one good lyric that we had the entire movie, which is, my father told me long ago, I faced a bitter storm of snow. I have to know, does that girl still live in me? Which is very quickly ruined because then Dopey talks. Again, by itself, not a huge deal by itself. But the thing with Dopey is that the dwarves still care about him even though he's different. Right? Like, in the original, they never have a problem including him, they never have a problem translating for him, he's just a part of the gang, and it's never questioned or brought up. Sure, they probably, like, jostle him a little bit, but that feels more brotherly than bullying him. But now, only once he kind of gets over his issues and talks like a normal person, now is when he's accepted by his family, quote-unquote. And now, the dwarves love him. Fine, Disney. Fine. Whatever. And now Snow White goes back to the village that we were told no longer remembers her. And do you remember that girl with the flower crown? Yeah, she sees Snow White. And Snow White's, like, nervous to walk down the main street. And she sees her, and she runs in, she gets the flower crown, and she puts it on her head. And it's super, super intense. Very Hunger Games, Snow just got reaped energy. Like, very 3 fingers in the air, like, we are with you. And the village joins her and stands behind her. She makes her way down the main road up to the palace doors. And she has to face the queen on the steps of the palace. To which Queenie addresses the village and asks them, do you want someone beautiful or do you want someone powerful who can take care of you? To which I say, that's a bit of a self-read, Queenie. Like, maybe you are insecure. Maybe we should work on that first. And Snow calls out the evil queen that Queenie killed Snow White's father, to which Queenie then, manifests a diamond dagger? Hello? That shit goes hard as hell. Like, that's dope. That looks so cool. And it's making all the ching, ching, ching noise that's being flung around. I'm a huge fan of the diamond dagger. And I would be shocked if Disney didn't work with, like, Swarovski or someone to make, like, a little replica of that, like this. Or even a big one like this, who knows? Like a Swarovski crystal holiday ornament. A little diamond dagger. That shit goes hard. But she conjures it. Handle out to Snow. And says, if you want your throne, take it. To which I said, I wish she fucking would. Because fair is fair, right? Because if you remember, she killed the king for her own selfish reasons. She wanted to kill Snow White for no reason at all. She ripped farmers from their homes and forced them to be her soldiers, ripping them from the life that they knew. How many lives has she taken or changed irreparably? The punishment shouldn't outweigh the crime, but then the crime shouldn't outweigh the punishment. No? Is that not what's fair? Because if you put her in the dungeon, she has magic and she will get out. And she will kill you, and probably others. She's made her character very well known. So shouldn't Snow White kill her? Isn't one of the most important things about being a good leader is being fair? And is it only fair that she has a punishment equal to her crimes? And as leader, doesn't she have to set the standard for what's fair? And you see now why I hate the use of that fucking word. Because this is what you set up when you're using the word fair as many times as you have, and you have called attention to it over and over and over. This is how language works. And now with Snow White not killing the queen, well, now that doesn't feel fair. She's killed people. And I'm not one for the death penalty. Let me make that very, very clear. I'm making a point here. It's one of the worst Chekhov's gun I've ever seen. For you to call this idea to fair is fair, fair is fair. We have to be fair. It has to be fair to the crime. And then her crime to be murder and her punishment not to be death. Feels not fair, in my opinion. Not saying I want Snow White to be a murderer in my Disney Snow White movie. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is the setup that you've written yourself into when you write this way, where you call so much attention to this theme and you hit someone over the head. You have to take it to the extreme because you're setting it up to the extreme. Anyway, Snow White can't do it, which is fine. And the queen tries to make the guards arrest Snow White, and the only reason why they can't is because she remembers their names. And I will say, I do love this. I do love this. This is perfectly in theme. We love seeing it. She remembers Paul. I love the idea that Snow White is a good leader because she cares about her people. That makes perfect sense. And that's the reason why they can't follow the queen anymore. They can't stand by. It's because they realize how much Snow White cares about them. I love that. I think that's cute. I will say it doesn't feel super earned because it only comes up once before with the dwarves where she has to tell us, oh, my mother always said that it was important to remember a name. And so we meet the dwarves, and then now when we meet Paul, okay, sure, I guess, fine, whatever. I think that there's more that could have been done there, but whatever, it's fine. And the queen still dies. And I love this death for the queen, I will say. I think having her be her own demise is so appropriate, so thematically correct. And her getting sucked into the mirror because she breaks it in a hissy fit. Oh, that's satisfying. That's good. That's good. I just realized I don't know why she had a scepter. She has this magical crystal scepter that she uses the entire movie, and it's like supposed to be how she channels magic, but we see her only ever doing magic without it. So I don't know why she has it. That's what she uses to break the mirror. I don't know why she had. Whatever. Movie's over. I don't care. And we finally learn who the narrator was this entire time narrating this story to us. You want to take a guess? It was fucking Dopey. Okay. Whatever. Woo! God damn it. I'm wearing a really, really pale yellow... Ow. I'm wearing a really, really pale yellow dress, and I realize that painting with it is not the most relaxing activity, but whatever. But anyway, why is Dopey reading the story of Snow White to the village people? Like, why would they want to hear it when they lived it at most 2 weeks ago? But they do, and people are very happily sitting and listening to him read. Anyway, we have one final dance moment back on the soundstage that is the Castle Plaza, which is fine. It's whatever. I don't care. The movie's over. It looks bad, though. I know it looks bad. You know it looks bad. Even if you haven't seen it, you know it looks bad. But it's whatever. It's fine. Everyone's dressed in white for Snow White, I guess. Sure. The point is, the credits start to roll, and in the distance, off to my left, I hear a distinct snap of an AirPods case closing. And I look over, and they're already up out of their seats, leaving. And I look in front of me, and all 15 children are up and exiting the theater. Not a single one of them humming a tune from the movie, just excited to go home. And my partner and I are left sitting there, wondering, why the fuck are we here at 1 a.m? Is it a good movie? Fuck no. Is it a good Snow White? Let's find out. Sense of community? They say yes, but I say no. Graciousness? Sure. Evil queen obsessed with youth? Not really, just kind of obsessed with power. Scary forest? Yeah. Praying? Surprisingly no. Magical animal connection? Sure. Standing up for the little guy? Yeah. Dreaming or wishing for happily ever after? Borderline. She doesn't think about happily ever after literally. She thinks about, oh, one day growing into the girl I'm supposed to be, and one day falling in love and not being alone anymore. And so those things kind of count as, like, happily ever afters, but she never thinks of that, like, being the end-all be-all. So that's borderline. So I'm gonna count it, because I think that those things both count as happily ever afters, but Snow White herself never thinks of it that way specifically. But that's fine. Familial relationships? No. You can tell me yes all you want, but I watched the movie with my own 2 eyes. You gotta earn that. No. Why prince? No prince. Unhoused forest theater man. They had more reason to be there. I realize we're even on both sides, and I didn't account for that happening. I hadn't counted on my script. I'm gonna say it counts as a Snow White movie, but only by the skin of its teeth, and I'm not gonna say it's a good Snow White movie, because many of those answers count technically, which I personally count as a no, but I'm trying to be fair, after all. And I know I shouldn't care about this movie. I've never cared about the Disney live actions before. I've seen them, yeah, but when I left, I didn't continue to think about them. I mean, not unless someone asked me for my opinion, and even then, it was like, oh, they got this, they did this, kind of interesting, they did that, that's kind of fun, all this other shit was bad, and they're mediocre at best. Especially as someone who always wants to find the good in things. Especially things like movies that require so much work from so many different people to even get them working. I always want to find the good in them. Because, see, I didn't think this movie was going to be awful when I went to go see it. I thought it was going to be just like all the other ones. It was going to be bad, it was going to make a fun little quick video. I thought this was going to be a short, fun, quippy little video that gave me an excuse to go back and read the original Snow White. I didn't think it was going to be what it turned out to be. And I don't think I would care if it wasn't for all the princess bashing. Because, see, I'm a romance author by choice. I love the genre. I love a sappy, gooey love story. I love a happy ending. I love a happily ever after, and I love a good princess story. No matter who's saving who, he's saving her, she's saving him, the dragon is saving someone somehow. Any sort of princess story I'm enamored with. I think they're fun. And I grew up watching Disney. Although that being said, Disney's not the reason for my love for romance. I came into that as an adult. I just watched Disney as a kid and I had a fondness for it. But all this to say that this movie was meant to be sold to me specifically. Me for my interest in love stories, me for my nostalgia, and me because I'm at that age where I would have kids that they would want to convert into Disney fans. I don't have kids, but I'm at the age where I would. So I'm the wallet that they want to open. They want my money. But at every single turn, they bashed on me, they bashed on the genre I love, and they bashed on the princesses. And then had the balls to say, money please, 'cause we made it better. Ours is better. And I'm gonna be so for real with you, I never cared about Snow White before this. I respected her as a princess, but she was just kind of another princess. I like the aesthetic, sure. I thought she was cute, but if someone had asked me, hey, what's your opinion on Snow White? I would have had to think about it for a couple minutes. And I think it's why I've taken it so personally. Because you don't get to shit in my face and then ask for my money afterwards. Like, come on. Like, that's not fair. But now, buddy. Oh, I have so many opinions. But now, you and I, together, we are going to sit down and write what this movie should have been. Tomorrow. It's only going to be a second for you, but I'm exhausted and my back is killing me. I tried to finish the first layer of the outside of the mug because I mixed up all the paint. But I can't, and I'm tired. So it's only going to be a second for you, but I hope you appreciated my yellow and my red little bow. It's the only red bow I had in my collection. I'm so sorry. But it is a red bow, so the spirit is there, and this is the only yellow top I have, and it's actually a dress. So, I wish if I had a blue, like, corset, I would have put it on, but I don't. It might help my back, though. I should look into that. Anyway, I also know I look super flushed, like, super, super red, and I am red. Let's not get it twisted. I'm hot right now. It's really hot. I can't have my fan on while recording. But, I try to go for, like, a lover girl look. I wanted, like, the big red cheeks to be youthful, and I wanted the pink glitter on my eyes to be just lovey-dovey as much as possible. That's also why we painted the heart mug first, but I probably look like shit and I feel like shit and I need to go lay down. I hope you know that I try so hard to dress in theme for every video I do. So I try to use what I have and sometimes it doesn't hit. I hope this one hit. So I hope you appreciate it for what it was. I hope you see the attempt, you know? But with that being said, I will see you tomorrow. It's the next day. How's it going? So, mug update. I did finish the mug. We can see it in better lighting now. It's red on the inside and pink on the outside. How nice. I left this heart white for funsies. So, mug update. I ended up putting another coat on it simply because I had the underglaze already mixed up and I didn't want to waste it. So, there's less brush strokes because of that. So, that's where we left off with this one. And today we're going to work on to the next one. I'm gonna put that down. She's gonna hang out right there for us. Nice. No, I did not put on the yellow dress. Again, I wanted to be in a big t-shirt. I want to be comfy, but I did keep the extra rosy red cheeks, and then I try to do a more prominent little red bow. This is the only red handkerchief I have. Live with it. We're moving on to the next mug, and I think we are gonna do an apple. Welcome to the Story Archaeologist section. If you are new here, sometimes I like to play Story Archaeologist. So what that means is I like to take a story, dig around as much as possible, and try to piece together as many of the story pieces to put together a cleaner story that's hidden underneath all that junk, while keeping as much of the original as possible. And if you like this idea, subscribe so one day I can afford an Indiana Jones hat. Or if you're just having a fun time. But back to the beginning of the story again. I am going to be keeping the remake 3D version of the storybook with the little critters running around on it because I think they're cute. Some people really don't like how they look. But I prefer this kind of cartoony, weird version of them over hyper realistic ones any day. So we're keeping them. I also think this would just make great merch. Like, imagine this as a journal, but without the Snow White writing on the front. I think the girlies would love that. Girlies love pretty journals that they never use. And also, subtle Disney merch is few and far between. because no one wants to rep Disney anymore, and that's fair, I get it. Anyway, and I do like the snowstorm idea, so we are keeping it, but we are tweaking it a little. Mom's dying, RIP to her. So we're going to open on a snowstorm, but instead of a carriage being trapped in the snow, we're going to be coming in on our king, booking it through the snow as fast as possible, with a tiny little baby bundle wrapped in his arm as he rides for his life, or more appropriately, his daughter's life. See, the king and queen were on their way back to their castle because the queen was due soon, but the baby came early. And unfortunately, due to a snowstorm, they got trapped and the queen didn't make it. But with no end to the snowstorm in sight, the king made a difficult decision to ride back to the castle with only his trusted guard to give his baby girl her best fighting chance. And the trusted guard is going to be the Huntsman later in the movie, but we only kind of see him here, right? I should start painting. And as he pulls into the castle plaza, he looks down in his arms and sees this resilient, healthy baby girl with her cheeks flushed red and a dark mop of curly hair on her head. And when he passes over to the physician, they ask her name, and he only hesitates for a moment before brushing some white flakes from her hair and declaring, Snow White. Now, even though she's still like a useless baby in the scenario, now she has a little bit more agency in like bearing the storm, you know what I mean? Versus just kind of being born in the storm. Not saying that's not difficult, it is, but for the drama. Also, I do like her being named Snow White after the snowstorm. I think that's a really fun twist. I don't have a towel. And then when she asked the question, like, is the girl who bared the winter storm, is she still inside of me? There's like a little bit more weight to that. You know what I mean? Because as a baby, she shouldn't have lived. I didn't shake this. And technically, she didn't do anything. But she lived, and her dad equates that to, she has a strong spirit. She's meant to be a leader. You know what I mean? And so, kind of playing into her own self-doubt of, I'm being told I'm meant to do this. Am I actually meant to do this? A little more insecure. And now, we have the first song, Good Things Grow. I hate the song because I hate all the songs. Because I'm unclear on the vision. I love Broadway. I love the tune. I hate the lyrics, and I hate that they're in this movie. So, a lot of complicated feelings about this. But anyway, we're keeping that song. Not sold on the vibe, but c'est la vie. And I like the idea that the kingdom is its people that you plant and you nourish, and that's how you watch it grow, right? And we can even show that with the king and Snow White helping plant the apple orchard when she's like really young, then going back when she's a little older to harvest the apples, and then even a little more older when they're baking pies for the kingdom to show the progression of time that he is raising her to be a good leader. And I'm going to say that they do the apple pies on the queen's birthday, and you know the wishing well, Snow White's wishing well, instead of it just kind of being a wishing well on the castle grounds, I think it's going to be a gift from king to queen before her passing, and so that's why it's really special to Snow White, and it becomes her wishing well. And so now when they're there looking down into the water, the king is telling Snow White, one day I wish you to be a leader just like your mom, someone fearless, just, and true, and that one day she's going to be able to be whatever type of ruler that she wishes to be as well. And then of course he gives her the necklace. It says fearless, fair, brave, and true, and I'm going to make it look a little different. That's just personal bias. I think it'll be really cool if the words traced the outline of the heart versus just being smack in the middle. Just saying. That's my personal bias, but what else are we here for? And now Queenie shows up. She's still demure. She's still beautiful. I think that we're going to make it more clear that she shows up wanting to be a resource because of her magic, right? She wants to help the kingdom grow, just like the king. Maybe she's the one who enchants the mines, so the gems glow in the dark, so they're easier to find. She's one of the things that led them to prosperity. She's beautiful, she's humble, she's helped the kingdom. He's powerless to not fall in love with her. And Snow White, she's happy for them. She grew up hearing and seeing how much her dad loved her mom, so getting to see him experience that love again is exciting. Good for him. And it makes it more heartbreaking when he goes to war and never returns. Now, aesthetically, because of course talk about aesthetics here. For the queen, I think we see her go from rags to Queen 1, the good queen aesthetic, which we could still do the crystal thing, but think more opal, more rose quartz. And then once the king dies, that's when she adopts her black attire. She's playing the grieving widow, but she just wanted to dress in black. She just needed an excuse, really. We can even have a moment of her playing the mourning queen. She's in all black, and she's like, oh my god. And as the camera pans, she's like, okay, whatever. Show that she's evil. And then in her grief, she cuts Snow White's hair. She puts her in rags. She makes her the maid. The usual shtick. The narration telling us that she's threatened by Snow White's beauty and her ability to rise to power. It's important to call out both in this. And all of this opening narration being done through narration, tableaus, montages, things of that nature, while I'm yapping up a storm. Remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Is this a good apple color? Like an apple core color? Or is it too yellow? I don't know. Oh, I wish I could show you how much of a mess I made. And now Snow White, well, she wants to believe the best in people, alright? She didn't see the queen be evil. So, when Jonathan, when Jonathan shows up, when he shows up to steal food, she genuinely believes that she can talk to the queen. She hasn't seen her be super evil, you know what I mean? She knows that they're not a great time, but she doesn't think it's the queen's doing by herself, right? And when it doesn't go well, it opens Snow White's eyes to how truly selfish the queen is. Selfish and self-centered, and she cares that the kingdom looks powerful and looks prosperous, but she doesn't care if the people are actually prosperous, you know? And now, of course, Snow White brings out her dead father, and it just pisses her off more. And how on her mother's birthday they used to make apple pie for the village as a celebration. It just pisses her off. It just pisses her off. Because it's her kingdom now. She knows what it means to be a fair and just ruler. How could Snow White know better? Just because you're young and you think you know everything? Please. Now, see, that won't do. I'm the one with power. I'm the one the people want to be in charge. And Queenie still sends Jonathan off for punishment. The same thing, same being tied to the gate in just his shorts and t-shirt to freeze to death overnight. And we still have the moment of the punishment should not exceed the crime, like you're being excessive. And we still have the song Waiting on a Wish, but we are going to change a couple of the lyrics. And so we're going to keep the feeling of being trapped. We're going to keep the feelings of wanting to speak up, that pull, that need to help people, that need to be a leader. That feeling is still going to be there, but we're going to get rid of the line, someone who just might be brave, someone who no one needs to save. Rather, we're just going to focus on hearing her talk about wanting to be the savior, wanting to do something kind, right? Which leads her into saving Jonathan, because one step of good, no matter how small, still makes a difference. And we get to see this from the perspective of the queen. We hear her ask her magic mirror her favorite question, maybe after she fixed her lip gloss, she's, tightened up her eyeliner, something along those lines. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? To which he says a fun rhyme, which I'm not going to write because I'm bad at them, but feel free to fill in the blank. Because instead, he shows Snow White just as she is done freeing Jonathan. She's flushed, a huge bright smile as she's waving him off. Bye. Double whammy to the queen's ego. And no, this will not do. Now she wants blood. And I think it's important to note that any time, I don't know if there is another time, but if we ever see the queen, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, she always has to see Snow White doing something actively kind. It's never just going to be her sitting there being pretty. I think that is an important, subtle thing to put in the movie. I don't think it's that subtle, but subtle thing to put in the movie. And after she sees this from the mirror, we do a rotating shot around her. The lighting shifts from golden to dark navy, showing the passage of time, and now we're looking behind her, right? And Snow White is walking by. Maybe she's in her pajamas, maybe she's carrying something heavy, just anything to show passage of time, but Queenie has been sitting there ruminating, just plotting with her cold, dead eyes dead into camera. But as Snow White passes, Queenie says, "Snow, come here, please." "Yes, ma'am. Maybe you were right about the apple pies. Will you go tomorrow and pick apples for me?" "It'll be my honor." So the next day, Snow, she's all dressed up to go out. It's a little stuffy. She is a little awkward, a little too many layers. The corset has like this crystalline design on it. Her dress looks like it has an overskirt that's crystal and shiny and sparkly. It's just, she's a little too bright, a little too shimmery, and she doesn't look the most comfortable. Almost implying that the queen picked out this outfit for her, right? It's not flattering on her. And while she's out picking apples, she comes across a couple villagers, a mother and a daughter. And they're clearly not supposed to be there. They see her, they see the guards, they kind of panic and they scurry, but the little girl trips, and apples go rolling everywhere, and she's trying to pick them up, and Snow White stops the guards, and she steps away. "Just give me a moment." And she helps the little girl. She helps her pick up the apples, she helps her readjust her apron, and she puts the mother at ease. "No, it's fine, please. Take them, that's what we planted them for. Thank you for enjoying them." And as she turns back, we see the mother and daughter still scurry away, and the mother does a double take. She looks familiar, that's weird. But they walk off. And as Snow White comes back to her guard, well, he gives her a look, and he's like, "Well, the queen won't like that." To which Snow White says, "Oh, silly me. I seem to have lost some apples somewhere. Oh, that's alright, I'll just pick some more. As long as I have enough for the pies, after all. Which makes the guard crack a small smile and turn the other way, and as she passes, "Thank you, Paul," and she goes off to continue picking apples. But the huntsman is following her, closely, herding her farther into the forest. And as she picks up on it, the forest gets darker and darker, and she's looking over her shoulder, and the branches are curving in over her, and she's starting to panic. And when she looks back, on the shadow of a tree or a big stone, she sees the shadow of a dagger. Turns, gasps, clutches her cape. "What? Why? What's wrong? Are you okay?" And that stops him. No, he's not okay. "Jeremy, are you okay?" He doesn't have a name, but I'm just gonna make up a name and give it to him. He's Jeremy now. But she's sitting there, looking at him with these big eyes, just worried about him, and he can't bring himself to do it. So he tells her to run. And instead, she tries to step forward, again, asking, "Are you okay?" And run. Just run. Don't trust the queen. Run and don't come back. And against her better judgment, she does. She takes off running into the pitch black forest. The branches are reaching out. They snag her cape. They snag her dress. She's clutching her arms and she's hiding her face. And whew, over a cliff. We're not having her drop. We're not doing the double-decker scary forest. We're not. Okay? I think it's funny if she trips and slides down a hill and goes off a cliff. And then she still can fall into a pool of water. And I'm going to make it a waterfall pool. Like, she falls this way, the waterfall's coming this way, because I think the rushing water could just really scary, like, sound effect. You know, as she's running, the sound of rushing water getting more imposing. And then as she's falling, we're still hearing that. And then she still has to crawl, pull herself out. And as she kind of starts to relax, the rushing gets quieter. And she realizes, no, it's just water. It's fine. I'm fine. But she pulls herself in the water. She's disoriented. She still somehow has her little basket with apples in it. And even she is like, what? What's going on? And she has this heavy wet cape that she has to pull out of the water. And we still let her meet her little magical critter friends here. And instead of a magical bread that she pulls out of nowhere, we are going to have her pull out an apple from the basket. And we can't offer a full apple to a deer, so what does she do? She takes a bite, spits it into her hand, and then hands that out to the deer. Very unprincessy, but I think very charming. And the deer takes it. And now she has friends, and now she's a little less alone. And the animals still pick up on her friend vibe, and they still take her to the cottage. This time, though, the cottage is neither dirty nor clean. It's just lived in. There's a mug on the table, there's plates in the sink, there's a blanket, like, half on the sofa, half on the floor. And she feels bad about it, but she's freezing, and she's starving, and she doesn't know what else to do. So she wrings out her clothes in the sink, she restarts the fire, she hangs up her ripped cape to dry in front of the fire, and then she starts to take off her, like, formal wear, like her blue corset, her overskirt. They're all dripping wet, and she's hanging them up, hinting that she might have another outfit underneath, but we don't get to see it because she still takes the blanket and wraps it around herself, trying to warm up. But physically she looks relieved to not have so many clothes on her. Hi-ho starts to play. We cut to the dwarves. We are deleting the dead behind the eyes CGI dwarf. We are hiring genuine little people, actors with dwarfism. We're putting them in these roles. And remember, we're using the word dwarf in the context of the story because this is a more fantasy-leaning story. We're treating it as a race in a fantasy setting, but using the word little people or the phrase people are actors with dwarfism when addressing real people. We want to be as respectful as possible. I'm trying my best. And since we are making the dwarves human instead of whatever the hell they were in the movie, instead of magical powers, we're going to have enchanted pickaxes, maybe enchanted jewelry that they wear, something, or a button that they click that activates the charm, or anything to show that this is magic that is being used that's not coming from them. Because remember, the queen is the reason that the gems are so much easier to find now. And so here, we are seeing them. They're doing hard work. They're working their butts off. We see them working hard in the mines, and we cut between them and Snow White back at home, because she's also working her butt off. And we get to see both actions line up with the beat. Hi-ho, psh, psh. I think that's fun. And so we cut between the two scenes, and we see Snow White. She's made herself a plate of food. She's trying to warm up. She's frantically making another loaf of bread to replace the one that she ate. With the few apples that she did have, she made apple turnovers as like a thank you for breaking into your house. She's trying to frantically mop the floor for all the water and the dirt that she's brought in. And as she's cleaning her dishes, well, she's cleaning whatever's in the sink as well and whatever was on the counter because she's there. And she's putting things away. She's just trying to make it look like she was never here to begin with. And once she's done, she sits in front of the fire, still trying to finish drying off her hair, drying off her clothes, and she ends up dozing off. And now, when the dwarves come home, oh, something's wrong. The plates and the cups, they're in the wrong spot. Someone put them on the shelves. We stored them in the drawer. Someone's been here. And we still can have the monster scene as an homage to the original, because I think that's fun. It's kind of silly. It's lighthearted. And now, when Snow White pops up from under the blanket, we're making her hair curly. Her little bob, it got wet. It's disheveled. She has little, like, horns poking out in other directions. She has a cute little curly bob that's just really soft and fluffy. And she immediately starts apologizing. I'm so sorry. My name is Snow. Snow? What kind of name is that? Grumpy obviously interrupts. And she laughs it off. She's used to it. My father named me because I was born in a snowstorm. Princess Snow White, at your service. Princess, princess, princess! They all start talking over each other. Yeah. And what are your names? I'm Doc. This is Bashful. And he's all shy. She says hi to them. I'm Sneezy. Bless you, Sneezy. I'm happy. I'm sleepy, perhaps. Oh, and you are? He's Dopey. And I'm misunderstood. Walks away, dramatic. It's not as good as joke as the original, I know. I wanted to try to keep the joke in, but I felt cringy even saying it. We'll workshop it after the table read, okay? But he's grumpy, Doc says. Yeah, we're all familiar with each other. How nice. What are you doing in our house? And she apologizes again and tells them, I'm so sorry. The queen, she's trying to kill me. I took off running and I needed a place to hide. This is the first place I came across. I'm so sorry. And the dwarves, they're immediately on her side. I never liked her. She always rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, and what makes you say that? I don't know. And the dwarves, they start getting comfy. They're coming home from work. They're taking off their jackets. They're washing their hands, washing their face, putting their work clothes away. And Doc is talking to Snow. Why would the queen want her dead? And she thinks it's because she let Jonathan go, and how Snow is the last of the royal family. And they start talking about her staying with them. The dwarves split. Half are like, yeah, sure, you're in need. The other half are like, man, I don't know, I don't want trouble. I don't want no trouble on my doorstep. How can we turn away someone in need? Well, what has she ever done for us? And then Dopey comes in eating one of the apple turnovers. He takes a bite. His eyes light up. I have no one here to smack to emphasize my point. Pretend I'm smacking someone. Smack, 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 smack. He passes off a piece to Grumpy. He passes off a piece to Sneezy. They're like, oh my god, this is so good. You make this, Grumpy says, through a mouthful of apple turnover, crumbs spilling out. Yeah, it was supposed to be a thank you, and sorry for breaking in. It's all I had on me. Can you make more? Sure, if you can tell me where to get more apples, and if I have a place to stay. Doc and Grumpy, they share a look. Fine, you can stay here, you'll pay your rent in apple pies. Finishes it off. And Doc tells her, you don't actually have to make apple pies, it's fine. In which we hear Grumpy off screen. No, yes she does. Yes, she does. He's already started eating the other one. He does cut off pieces to share with Doc and Sneezy. With Doc and Sleepy and whoever didn't get a piece the first time. They're still sharing, but he gets the bigger piece. And maybe Sneezy or someone pull out a step stool to get down the plates and the cups. And Grumpy goes, no. He goes out of his way to tell her, no, you put them in the wrong spot. That's not where we keep them. That's inaccessible for us. To which she's humble and embarrassed. Oh, I'm so sorry. It never crossed my mind. Where should I put them? She takes them down, puts them in the drawer where they keep them. Things like that. Oh, my kitty! You can't see her, but she's purring. This is a monster. Her name is Lady. She's a monster. When you subscribe, you're actively paying for her college education. And everyone settles in for the night. And Snow White, she's getting cold. She wants to put on her regular outfit, but she pricks her finger on some of the crystals. She's like, gosh, this stupid thing. To which Dopey comes over and he's looking at it. And one of the other dwarves, probably Doc, says, do you want Dopey to take a look at it? He's real good at stuff like that with his hands, detailed stuff. And she looks at Dopey. Yeah, actually, that'd be great. I really'd appreciate it. It's hard to wear. Lays the dress out. The queen picked it out for me. It's so heavy. I should have known then that she wanted me dead. They laugh, and we pan out the darkness, follow the smoke. One of those transitions. And we go up through the floor into the palace to see the queen sitting in front of her beautiful vanity. Maybe she's doing her nighttime routine. She has eye patches on. She has her hair up in curlers. You know what I mean? Over the top. And she's staring at her vanity, which is also the magic mirror, which I don't think I mentioned. Is it on the wall? No. Shut up. It's all a built-in thing. But it's beautiful. It's ornate. She could be in a feather robe. Something extravagant for our queen. And we are changing the song All Is Fair. Because I don't like that song at all. Gal Gadot, she tries her best, but it's just, you can't have her and then also Rachel Ziegler. And also, it's a bad song. It's not doing her favors. It looks awful. Anyway, I've given my piece to this already. Now, can I write music? No, I'm tone deaf and I don't know how music works despite years of training. I don't know what to tell you. But I can paint you a picture, okay? Queenie, sitting in front of her mirror, gorgeous. On the vanity is where the heart box is placed, and she's very clearly excited about it, but she hasn't touched it. Alright, it's just there. And she starts singing her song. It's more sultry, less jazz hands. It can still feel Broadway, but let's go for romance. And she sings about how she was an ugly duckling, and now she's gorgeous, and it's different, and now she's power, and no one can tell her no. Everyone has no choice but to want her, to love her, to worship her, almost. Because she's a diamond, after all. She's beautiful, she's perfect, she's strong. And who can call her heartless when all it took was a little heart, and she picks up the box, and we see her face fall. No, he didn't. Oh, no, he didn't. And the music goes spooky. She's the only diamond around. It's always only been up to her to take care of it. You can't trust someone else to take care of it. She slams the box down. She opens it up and pulls out the fucking apple. And she is pissed. We get a scary music sting. She slams the apple down and she swooshes her robe, her cape, whatever. She has to dramatically swoosh out of the room. And in that swoosh, we use a fabric transition to Snow White flipping out a, tablecloth, right? And as it comes down, it's a reveal. She's in a new outfit. Her skirt, it's less full, it's pale yellow, and it's tea-length, and she has a soft blue corset over, a white top. Low-key, we're mixing her peasant outfit and her princess outfit to get this kind of look, right? Everything about it looks soft and comfy, right? And she's whistling to herself. She's setting up the table outside. It's a beautiful day in the cottage, and she's just kind of sprucing it up. Dopey starts whistling along with her, and she tries to get the dwarves to clean up the yard with her. And they don't think it's important because they work all the time. Why are we going to set this up if we're never going to use it? To Snow White acknowledges, yeah, you work really hard, so shouldn't you have a nice space to come home to and enjoy? You have this beautiful outdoor space. Take advantage of it. It's nice to have luxury things every now and then. It's nice to take care of yourself. Encouraging them to relax to the fullest, right? You work hard, you play hard, etc., etc. And this would involve changing the lyrics a bit, but that's fine because we already changed them for the movie, so now it's our turn. Do I know exactly what those lyrics would be? No, again, I can't write music, I'm sorry. I'm just giving you the vibe. And this leads into getting to see them indulge in their activities outside. We see Sleepy sleeping in a hammock. We see Dopey doing something with his hands. We see Grumpy maybe whittling. We see Doc looking at racks, etc., etc., showing that these guys have hobbies and interests outside of just them and their work, right? She encourages them to work hard, play hard, But all this cleaning has left Snow White wanting to make apple pie for them, to her saying thank you and seeing them enjoy themselves. And so she wants to go pick apple pies. And of course the dwarves are like, you're not going alone, alright, hold on. So Grumpy, Dopey, and in my heart Sneezy also goes with them. And every time, mid-conversation, if Sneezy sneezes, Snow White says bless you. Every time. Every single time. Grumpy, oh my god, get over it. Stop sneezing. Stop it. That'd be very funny. Achoo, bless you. Stop it. Oh my god. If you've ever been around someone who sneezes a lot, yeah, that's the vibe. You get 3 bless yous, and then it's like, okay, shut up. We get it. You have allergies. Oh my god. But again, lighthearted. Very, very lighthearted. You need a joke after to really levy it. We want to see them. We just want to see them hang out. We want to see them be nice to each other. That's all. And on this walk, we run back in with Jonathan. We are cutting Princess Problems. I hate that song that he's just negging her the entire time. Okay, you cannot pay me enough money in the world to put this in my imaginary movie. And we're also cutting the thing where Snow White thinks her dad is alive. Yes, they are still fighting in the name of the king. I still like that. But there is no, could he be alive? Could he be dead? No, he is dead, and people are just upholding his values. And it kind of muddles the story a bit. Everyone knows that he's dead, but now Snow White's learning that, I think the queen killed him because she's learned that there was never a need for a war, right? Meeting new people broadens her horizons. She knows more. I don't think she was ever defending the queen, but I don't think she ever really questioned it. But instead of Princess Problems, we still meet Jonathan and his merry men. Maybe not 7, maybe cut it down to 4, Jonathan, he still has a chip on his shoulder about life being unfair. It's eat or get eaten. You never know where your next meal is coming from. And Snow White understands that. She's also, fairly abused. She also doesn't get fed really well in the castle, and she's also had to work hard her entire life. But her stance is grief shared is grief halved. and that working together, we're stronger. And to which he says, it's unfair to expect someone with nothing to share nothing. To which she says, it's not about being fair, it's about doing something kind. And she eventually wins him over. He's not negging her, he's more trying to impress her with how much stuff he's had to deal with, right? He's so tough, he's so strong, look at all this stuff he's overcome, right? And she, not impressed. She's like, my life is also hard, dude. Like, I get it, it sucks. It's okay. And I think it'd be a very sweet song. They're dancing to the apple orchard. He's still helping her pick apples, and they're arguing about working together, but they work together to get the fruits. It's just flirty back and forth, right? Nice little banter, not just negging. And they still get ambushed by the soldiers, and they drop all the apples. And this plays out roughly the same. They hide behind the trees, the bushes. Snow sends Dopey back to get her sparkly dress. And the dwarves and misfits are working together to confuse the guards and take them out one by one. They're being clever. It is still 14 guards versus however many there are. They're outnumbered and outskilled, so they have to be clever about it. And Jonathan and Grumpy both want Snow to go back to the cottage to hide, and she refuses. She's like, have faith in me, I have an idea. I sent Dopey away for a reason. And then when Dopey gets back, he has her formal dress, but the outermost layer, just the sparkly layer, like, it's just like a shiny overlay that like gets clipped on top, right? He has that. So it's kind of just sparkly blue, sparkly yellow, and kind of dregs and rags of pieces. And she gives it to the birds, and they successfully trick the guards. And since it's sparkly, it like really catches their attention out in the distance. And they're able to successfully send like half of them off in the wrong direction. We can even have like this action shot of the birds with the pieces that then get draped on the dough, and it's bouncing through it. Kind of looks like Snow White's maybe riding the deer, blah, 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 blah. I think that's kind of fun. Action scene. But all except for one guard who we thought was already taken out and knocked out. No, knocks a bow and arrow, tries to shoot Snow. Jonathan jumps in front. Essentially kind of what happened in the original. We're keeping that because I do like that. Except now, next time we see the guards, they are back at the castle giving the queen the crystal dress, quote unquote. I hope I have an image of what I mean by this. But just imagine, on top of her outfit, there's an extra, like, decorative piece that's just kind of, like, clipped on that's just pretty and sparkly, right? That's what they took off, and that's what they're using to distract the queen. But yeah, next time we see the guards, they're at the castle, and they're giving the queen this, like, dress, quote-unquote, these scraps. And so she uses magic on those pieces in order to track Snow White. She snaps off like a crystal. Maybe it glows, maybe she eats it, something along those lines. Anyway, Jonathan goes down like a tree trunk, and the misfits take out the one last guy. And they are worried. They rush Jonathan back to Doc, who is still a rock doctor. I think that's very, very funny. And he still tries his best. And you can rip this from my cold dead hands. We're still having the moment where he thinks Jonathan is dead. And then Jonathan comes down and he's like, oh my god, I thought he was dead. That's funny. That's my favorite part of the movie. We're keeping that. And even once he's fine, Snow White is still, like, really anxious about it. He hates that he did that for her. But he tells her he couldn't let his future queen get hurt. Which everyone, like, blushes a little. It's like, okay, well, we're just gonna let you have a moment over there. And the dwarves decide, we're gonna go and scrounge together something for us to eat. We're gonna go make food. Goodbye. Everyone, come over here. You know, and maybe Grumpy teases Snow White about, nah, you still didn't make your apple pie. You still didn't pay your rent. Something like that. And we see everyone else try to lighten the mood, but Snow White is still frustrated. She's frustrated. She's frustrated that the queen is doing this. This is not what a leader is supposed to do. She's planting the seeds of hate. She's poisoned everyone into thinking that it's everyone for themselves when it's not. We're supposed to work together. We're supposed to have faith in each other. To which all of our friends go, well, we have faith in you. Especially Jonathan, who's like, take a breath. It'll be okay. We'll eat and we'll figure this out together. Which leads into our romantic song, A Hand in a Hand. What is it? I didn't write it down. Where a hand meets a hand? Something like that. That song. Because I do like that song. I think it's cute. I hate it in the movie because just the pacing of it just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's weird. I don't like it in the movie, but the song by itself I think is sweet. And I think it would fit here. So we're going to keep it here. And we get to see everyone dance and have a good time. And it's as if they're trying to keep each other's spirits up, right? We're going to see a few of them be frustrated. Snow White's kind of frustrated, and they're teasing each other to lighten up the mood. And in having such a good time, our lovebirds, well, they get caught up in the moment and they almost kiss. Scandalous. But they get caught and teased. Ha 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 ha. Look at them. They have feelings. Ew. And still, my notes get funky here, and I don't super know why Jonathan goes off, so I don't know how to fit it into my script. Timing is kind of funky. In my script, it's the next day because they're, like, having a good time at night. But in our version, it's the next morning, and he tells Snow White he wants to try to do what's right and try to help her get back on the throne. The way that he thinks to do that is to spread stories about her kindness, because he thought she was dead. And a lot of our misfit heroes thought she was dead. So, like, well, if people know that you're around and you want to help, they're more likely to stand behind you, right? It's supposed to be a quick mission. It's a step one to the greater mission of getting her back on the throne. And she still gives him her necklace. And it's not a gift, it's a promise for you to come back to me, for you to return it to me. And then they kind of, like, awkwardly stand there for a minute, and, you know, we can see the misfits kind of, like, gonna awkwardly step away, goodbye. I'm gonna give him a moment. And he does. He turns and he goes, okay, well, I'll see you soon. And he turns to leave, and Snow White, she's brave, okay? She grabs him and she kisses him, and everyone's like, ah! Our girlie's being brave, okay? Our girlie is learning to be brave and to take the leap and all that fun stuff. This is her first moment to do that. And it sends him off with this big old goofy smile. He's happy, and we pan that the evil queen has been watching them through the magic mirror. And he's still caught by the queen's guards. He's still brought to her. We still see them shake him, and the heart necklace falls out from beneath his jacket. And of course she takes it and she locks him up, and I love the queen being scary. I love that, so we're keeping that. I thought that was coffee, that's Dr. Pepper. I know it's Dr. Pepper. I don't know why that scared me. Okay, anyway, where were we? We're keeping the icky transformation sequence where boom, boom, doom, dee. The music is also still a reprise of our new rendition of All This Fair, but now it's in a minor key to make it spooky. And in our version, while she's in her evil magic lair, she also puts a tracking spell on the necklace. Either the necklace or the crystal from the dress, what have you. Something to show us this is how I find her. She's not just wandering into the dark nowhere, right? Because this is how she finds our girl with her new evil apple. Evil apple. It's still white. I hate painting the inside because you guys don't get to see it. But we're back with our friends, and not just Jonathan. Jonathan's the only one who got caught, but all the other misfits still went with him, right? That's implied. But the next day the dwarves still have to go to work. It's like Monday again, and they are, like, nervous to leave Snow White behind. They're telling her, don't open the door for anyone. Like, please be safe. Grumpy's like, I expect an apple pie when I come home. Snow White's like, sure thing, buddy. Don't worry. She's not making an apple pie. And we are kind of seeing this from the evil queen's point of view as she's hiding in the bushes. She's watching them leave. But as the evil queen heads over to the cottage, we cut back to Snow White's point of view, and we hear her humming, Someday My Prince Will Come, as a fun little Easter egg to the original animated version, and also because she's a lover girl, okay? She just had her first kiss. She's very excited. That's fine. But as the evil queen gets closer, she's still attacked by the animals because they pick up on her stinky vibes. And Snow White doesn't think about it. She runs out, swats them away. Hey, no, stop. It's fine. Guys, it's okay. So sorry. Everyone's a little on high alert here. Are you okay? And she helps her over to sit on the benches that they set up earlier in the movie. She helps her to go sit down. Are you okay? Are you Snow White? Who? Don't know who that is. The princess? A nice young man sent me to find the dead princess. Oh, I knew it was a wild chase. I can't do a Gal Gadot accent, whatever. I knew it was a wild chase. People love to take advantage of old women. She pulls out the locket. Oh, I should just sell this for all the trouble. No, I'm sorry. I am Snow. That's my necklace. Why did he send you? He sent me to tell you he was sorry. He failed. He was captured by the queen. I have to go save him. Ah, you love him. How beautiful. Young love, please, take this. It's a long journey. No, I can't. Oh, please, for me. Let an old lady feel like she helped the future queen in her time of need. And as Snow makes eye contact with the apple, her hearing goes a little wonky, gets reverb, we get a little vignette happening, as she focuses in on the beautiful, shiny apple. And in the distance, we can almost hear the queen say something like, they say a blessing from an old witch will make all your wishes come true. And Snow White, almost against her will, takes a bite from the apple. And as she starts to go woozy, and as she starts to lose her balance, the old woman reveals herself, as the evil queen. And as Snow's vision goes dark, we hear the queen start to mock her. Too bad love's first kiss is no longer an option. If only you were more discerning with your judgment. Just a sprinkling of slut-shaming in there, just for the adults, just a little treat. And as the queen runs away in her evil little cloak, we hear the dwarves come running back. They're calling Snow's name, and she's still, mid-collapsing. She's, on her knees, and with all her might, she tries to say love's first kiss, but all that comes out is love's kiss. Love's kiss. She falls over, succumbs to darkness. Cut back! Jonathan! He's still in the dungeon. Except this time he's dirty. I don't know why I feel the need to point that out, but I do. Let them get dirty. Let time pass. And he still refuses to give up on her. She saved me. I have to save her. And he manages to escape, and he makes her way back to the girlie, and she is already dead, displayed in the meadow just in front of the cottage, in that same kind of area where they've been. We're not going to another area, it's just right there. She's surrounded by flowers and her animal friends, and the dwarves, they all swarm on him. Kiss her, please, you have to kiss her. Love's kiss, kiss her. What are you talking about? What about a kiss? Love's kiss, what's going on? Where's Snow? And Doc steps up. We don't know what happened. We think the queen poisoned her. But as she fell asleep, she just kept saying, love's kiss, love's kiss. And we don't know what that means, but we don't have the heart to move her. And she's still flesh, and they've gathered flowers around her. It's looked like animals have brought flowers placed next to her, like the birds and the does. And so Jonathan, he gets on the ground, and everyone falls into a hush. He leans down, and he kisses her on the forehead. And we wait, and it doesn't look like it worked. Okay, well, we'll try again. And so he takes a moment, and then he gives her a shaking kiss on the lips. Gentle, just a little smooch. But still, she doesn't wake. And our boys start to grieve. They don't know what else to do. They start to cry. And not just them, but the animals as well. The doe comes and she puts her head on Snow's lap. The bunnies come and they snuggle up next to her and they just lay down. And the dwarves, they come together crying and they join hands because grief shared is grief halved. Or seventh. And Dopey gently places a beautiful bushel of flowers on her stomach, which he was doing in the background. He was stressed, anxious, just picking flowers one by one, pacing, waiting for Jonathan to come back. And he puts that bushel on her stomach. And they all take turns saying sweet things about her, how she changed her lives, and just by being herself. And we end on Grumpy, who talks about how she was the first person, and as long as he can remember, to treat them with unconditional kindness. She treated them with love and respect from the beginning, and how honored they were to give her that love in return, no matter for how short of a time. And he leans down and he kisses her head goodbye. And she wakes up with a gasp, and they all dogpile on her. Jonathan, what? How did you get here? How did you wake me? She said love's first kiss wouldn't work. It wasn't me, it was them. You guys. How? Well, you see, Miss Snow. Ooh, did I get paint in my hair? Maybe. Doc comes up. It seems to me that it was you, actually. You were the first person to treat us with love and kindness for as long as we've been here. And so when Grumpy kissed your head, it seemed to have counted as love's first kiss. Oh, guys, they dogpile and they hug. And we have a moment. She gets teary-eyed and she's looking around at everyone that she cares about has come to care for her in time. And she goes, I have to go. I can't do this anymore. I have to stop her. I can't see her ruin my family's kingdom any longer. I can't see her keep doing this to you guys. I'm tired of waiting. I'm going. She runs into the cottage and she's putting on her formal dress and skirt from the beginning of the movie, this time without the crystalline structure. And now it fits her better. It's less stuffy. We see some of the layers have been removed and they're off to the side in the closet. It just fits her more comfortably now. And when she swooshes on her red cape, a lot of swooshing in this movie, but she swooshes on her red cape, she realizes it's shorter than she remembers. But out comes Dopey, and he's hiding something behind his back, something in his hands. She tells him, "Oh, thank you, Dopey, for fixing my dress." And he holds out his hands to her, and it's a red ribbon, obviously cut from her cape, that's been hand embroidered with little leaves and apple blossoms. And she gets emotional, but she thanks him. And she ties the bow onto her head, and don't worry, she still has her bangs out. She still got her little slut strands out. She still looks cute, but it's pulled her hair out of her face. It's one of those. She says, "Oh, I've been needing something like this. Thank you, Dopey." And voila, she's achieved her final princess form. Something different from anything we've seen her in before. And as she goes to leave the cottage, Jonathan stops her and he puts the necklace on her and he gives her a big kiss as a promise to stay safe and that they're doing this together. And off they all go. And we're keeping this similar to the original movie. She's still getting her Hunger Games moment But now, not only is it the flower crown girly, but if you look, all of our misfits are also mixed into the crowd, and they're the ones who are pulling people and encouraging her to follow. Like, no, come on. Like, that's her, let's go. And they're rallying the village people, if you will. And we still meet with the queen on the steps of the palace, and she still drags herself. Do you want someone pretty or do you want someone powerful? Girly, that's not the own that you think it is. And to which Snow says, no, they deserve someone who will always put them first. And Queenie still summons her diamond dagger, handle out, says, well, if you want your throne, take it. And Snow White does. She doesn't kill her, I promise, she doesn't kill her. But she takes the blade. Symbolic, she's taking it. She's not scared anymore of the queen. That's what this is. But she takes the blade, and she just holds it point down. Very unaggressive. But the guards see it as a threat. All the spears go up. And she says, Opal, I don't have time to think of an original name. We're going with Opal, okay? I almost went with Ravenna. Opal, we don't have to do this, she says. We both know that this is not the kingdom my father dreamed of. Well, this is not your father's kingdom. It's mine. Snow shakes her head. No, it's their kingdom. It's the people's kingdom. A leader's job is to nourish their kingdom, not suffocate them. I did not suffocate them. This kingdom was nothing without me. Nothing but a bunch of poor people not knowing the amount of riches you have just below your feet. There are things that are richer than diamonds. And she looks to Paul, like running a bakery with your father and the love of your life. Right, Paul? Having such an abundance of love that you never felt the need to turn people away. Rather sending anyone home with the ability to feed their family. Paul drops his spear. Or Jeremy, being the king's right-hand huntsman. Jeremy's like, oh god. Knowing the weight of the kingdom's health and nutrition rests on your shoulders. But bearing that badge with pride, knowing that you could provide for us. And that in turn, we would take care of you. Right, Jeremy? Down goes Jeremy's dagger. A kingdom's wealth is more than just riches. It's their ability to care for one another that keeps a kingdom flush. And I am sorry it took me so long to stand up for that. But I am here now. Opal, it's time to step down. And that strikes a nerve. And now Opal's starting to panic. She snatches the dagger from Snow White, but now the spear is torn towards her. And she's like, gosh! And she's frantic, and she takes off running. Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell them I'm the fairest of them all. But it doesn't answer her, because she didn't ask a question. But the longer it goes without saying anything, the more upset she gets. Tell them I'm the fairest of them all. Tell them they need me, they want me. And she slams the dagger into the mirror, shattering both. She's sucked into the mirror. Gone. Forever. And our guards and Snow White saw this, and the guards immediately burst into cheers. The queen's dead! She's dead! She's gone! Takes off running. But Snow White, she's not happy about it. It sucks. And with a heavy heart, she says, goodbye, Opal. Thank you for everything. Because she did. She made the kingdom rich, you know? She herself was a bad person with the wrong ideals, but she did good work. And Snow takes a moment to look at herself in the mirror. But she just closes the door and heads out to a celebration of cheers. Our new queen, Queen Snow White, the fair and the brave. Ah! And we cut and we zoom out. There's confetti, everyone's happy. And then comes in the narration, and it's grumpy. And we cut back to the narration about how all of our guys live happily ever after. We speed run Snow and Jonathan getting married. He gets a tiny little circular tiara while she gets a big old crown. And at the end, on her mother's birthday, Snow White and all of her boys is finally able to serve her apple pies for her family, for her kingdom, for the people she loves. And somewhere in the narration, we can put in that she found a love like her parents had. She's able to run the kingdom how her father wanted, and she grew into the leader that she wished she could be. Something along those lines. And the narrator's grumpy because Dopey does not need to conform to social norms in order to be loved. He is just included, and he's just a little autistic coded. Just a little bit, okay? And that's my version of a modern Disney Snow White. And we are on page 38 of this script. Dear God. Now, does it hit all the markers? Yes. The only one that I wish I could have leaned more into is the queen kind of being obsessed with beauty. I tried my best to show it that she's always kind of like looking at herself, checking herself, and the idea of being wanted, you know what I mean? I do wish I had found a way to sneak in that, like, that she's obsessed with being young and beautiful, to be, like, youthful, you know what I mean? But trying to stick with as much that was in this movie as possible, it was hard to kind of shoehorn that in without it feeling like it kind of came out of nowhere. So that's my one regret, because I do think that that is very important to the story of Snow White. If I had made this like straight with no influence of the modern Disney movie, I don't know what I would have done, honestly, and I don't want to think about it. I'm tired of thinking about Snow White, but that would be like my big thing. Like, no, the queen, I am powerful because I am beautiful and people love me and I'm in charge, and as long as I still hold that power, I matter, and that's what matters to me, right? While I love in Snow White and the Huntsman, we have that really hyper focus on her being young and beautiful. I love that version of the queen best, to a degree. That interpretation of the beauty best. It felt a little heavy for something that was still meant to be for a kids movie, and there is a way to do it. I know that there is a way to do it. I think I'm just burnt out. I think I'm just burnt out on this idea, but it feels like it's on the edge of my tongue how to do it, have to have that level, that deep level of nuance, and still have it be, like, for kids, right? Anyway, other than that, I'm quite proud of that dig. And honestly, I'm still shocked at how poorly this movie dropped the ball. I wasn't going to write my own rendition of Snow White when I first started this. I know I mentioned that at the beginning, but I wasn't going to. I was like, well, you know, this is going to be a lighthearted video. But somehow, Disney struck out while playing T-ball. And it just baffles me. Like, we're in a social and political climate where people feel more separated than ever. So having a good children's movie where the message is, together, we are stronger, we care for one another, we share when we have nothing to share, but we try anyway. Because that's what people do. And that beauty means to be kind. Like, buddy, everything socially in the world right now is lined up for that movie to be a home run. A simple escapism home run. They dropped the ball off the tee stand, and now I'm up to bat whether I wanted to or not. And I don't know, it's so... I know I kept asking, like, why did you want to remake Snow White? Because it seems like you do not like Snow White. But this is the perfect time to do it. And still, they messed up. Oh my god. It's just, as someone who likes Disney franchises, and who likes the princesses specifically, and who likes fun escapism, silly kids movies, and romance, like, it's disappointing, and it's embarrassing, and it's disheartening that Disney is such a shill, and will do whatever offends the least amount of people to try to make as much money back as possible. To try to make as much money as possible, period. Not even back, just as much money as possible. I know that, and it I don't know. I think part of this is me trying to find the good, you know? Trying to acknowledge that they did good things, because they did do good things in this movie. Like, it's so close to being good. It's right there. It's just all these little things that by themselves wouldn't matter, but all together accumulate into this really bitter taste in your mouth. If you like Disney, if you like romance, if you're anywhere in that world, or even if you like stories and don't want to be sold shit, you know? Like, I don't know. Something about this really just struck a chord with me, and I hope I made all of my thoughts as to why clear. Because, yeah, it feels kind of silly to care so much about this movie that does not care about me, you know? And also, I want Rachel Zegler to be successful. I know I kind of shit on her for being cast as Snow White, and this guy couldn't see her as Snow White, and because of all the things that she said, I think she's fine. Honestly, I think she's fine, and I will always root for Latina to do well. Honestly, I'll always root for Latina to do well, whether I like her or not, so I really hope that she does well. And I'm lukewarm with her now, so not that she cares. As she shouldn't. But yeah, I just think it's important to be able to dissect stories as to why we like them, why we don't like them, what works, what doesn't work, being able to put that into words, and being able to demand better from some of the biggest companies with your monetary vote. Because we can shout all we want on the internet, but money talks. Don't go see this movie. It's not worth it. Even for a laugh, even drunk with friends, it's just not worth it. Let them sit in the corner with their shame of how badly they missed the point. It's been a few days since I've seen Snow White. And I keep trying to convince myself it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And then I have to go listen to one of the songs to like check the lyrics. And it pisses me off all over again. But if you're leaving this video for some reason craving more Snow White content, being like, damn, I wish I could watch a good Snow White movie just to get the feeling out, just from being so disappointed. Well, I got the movie for you. Sydney White, 2007. Perfectly acceptable modern version of Snow White. It is so good, actually. It takes place in a college. It's a girl who wants to go to a fraternity because her mother was in the fraternity. Mother died. She gets into the fraternity because of her dead mom, but Queen Bee does not like her because too many other people like her. That won't do, so she gets kicked out. She goes to live with the Seven Dwarfs because she has nowhere else to go. No other fraternity will take her. She has to give up her dorm to try to get into a fraternity. Now she's homeless. So now she's with the Seven Dorks, and she decides to run for student body president with the help of her dorks. They learn life lessons. They learn to embrace themselves. And they learn that working together, they can get anything done, and they can get their voices heard. It has Amanda Bynes as Sydney White. It has Sarah Paxton as the Queen Bee. It has one of the boys look at Queen Bee and go, hi-ho, and walk off, and that shit's really funny. Is it a little problematic? Yes, but it's from 2007. It's actually not that bad. It's a nice popcorn movie. Put it on in the background. It checks off everything on our list except for anything relating to magic because it's not on a college campus. But it's a good Snow White movie. And it's free on YouTube. Go watch it after this. And then leave your review in the comments. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. But I'm done here. Is my mug done? No, and that's okay. I'll put in a picture of it being done right here so you can see it so you're not left blue balls. This is where we left off. It's yellow on the inside, red on the outside. If you like this video, as always, let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments. If you're a friend or a lover girl, I cannot wait to see you next time. And if you're just a traveler passing through, it was nice seeing you. I hope I provided you with some fun content to craft to. And maybe one day you'll find your way back to us. And if you crafted along with me while doing this video, tag me. I am authorpquill everywhere online. Show me what you work on. I need to know. Okay, good night. Ba 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 pa 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 da 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 ta 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 ka 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 pa ba da ta ka ga 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 pa ba da ta ka ga.